Live!
Live! Okay.
So anyhow, y'all should have that picture now in mintCast Telegram.
Yep, looks pretty cool.
I haven't made a Telegram just yet.
Oh.
So you can describe it to me, Moss. You can tell me what it looks like.
Well, you remember how Annette Funicello looked in...
That's way before his time.
Literally perfectly, Moss. It's like the freshest image in my head right now. That's all I think about is Annette Funicello.
Where did you post it? In Telegram?
Telegram mintCast.
Yeah, got it. Always
Annette
confuses
Funicello
me.
and Beach Blanket Bingo.
Yeah, Beach
1
Blanket
through 27.
Very nice.
Who was the guy with her in that? Was that Frankie Avalon?
Frankie Avalon, you bet.
My old stuff, too.
I like using the music stand for part of your setup.
Well, that's because I frequently do music from here. So I put my lyrics over there. I literally have my external external SSD that I use for my kudu sitting on it in that picture.
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
And yeah, at least you have a proper mouse.
I have a proper mouse.
Hey, Josh, I was listening to your and Bo's episode 0 or episode 1 of Crowbar Kernel Panic earlier today.
Yeah, how'd you like it?
I liked it a lot, actually. The beginning intro was really funny.
Yeah.
Now, if you missed it, Bo posted in Discord that he's not going to come today.
Mm-hmm.
So I have edited the script accordingly.
Honestly, I don't have much to add to the intersection either, but I'm still here.
You're always here, Joe. You're just that rock, you know?
All right, I'm gonna head back. I'll get reconnected.
Better to be a rock than have one thrown at you.
Ooh.
Better to be a rock than to smoke a rock.
See, I am so non-druggy that I had to think about that one. I only smoke right-handed and very rarely left-handed tobacco. For that matter, very rarely right-handed and almost never left-handed. Unlike Bill Clinton, I did inhale.
Oh, okay.
But it has been a long time since I have inhaled.
Since
All right,
this morning?
I'm gonna. No. I don't think I have in the last 4.5 years, but my wife has done a little bit, and I may have. I don't remember doing it though. And I certainly didn't for a lot of years before that. I am closing my Element instance.
Much more a fan of CBD.
Well, I haven't had CBD do anything. You know, it just doesn't do anything for me, so I don't bother. I sell it. If anyone wants to buy some, I've got a really good product here. We were supposed to be selling it to health food stores around Asheville, and nobody bought, so I still have 3 cases of the stuff here.
What type? What type?
What was it?
Bill.
It's cream. It's cream. They were selling it as a skin cream, more or less, but
some of those work pretty well.
Yeah.
Moss, have you ever thought about sponsoring mintCast? We could have an ad for Moss's Maui Wowie.
No. Besides, how would I pay them?
You can host
to
for free.
date, I am the only co-host who has said that I need money.
Correct.
So, therefore, me sponsoring mintCast would be me paying me.
Or me. You could just pay me, boss.
I could, but you'd have to give it back.
It's okay. I could do that. I could just send you like those little $1 bag of peanuts, so 2 for 99 cents.
Leo, just
So I can
I
invest in
literally
can't
say
chew
that I'm
anything
paying
with
you
my
peanuts.
teeth, Leo.
Oh, but you could put them in a blender and make peanut butter. Look, Moss, all I want is to be able to say that I pay you peanuts to do this show.
Dry roast them and then blend them and make peanut flour.
See? And then all of your bread tastes like peanut bread.
Well, dry roast them more.
Right, shall we do some audio
Hang on one sec.
before I have to go?
Yeah. Hang on one sec. I gotta. What do you do this thing?
Where are you off to, Tony?
No, I'm not feeling too well, so I'll probably bail out if it goes much over 2 hours tonight.
All right. See, keep it tight, guys. Keep the show tight.
Want to make sure before we start one more time I'm not too loud, too soft, too echoey.
No,
Fine.
You sound okay.
Sounds all right.
Believe me,
get-
if you didn't sound fine, I would tell you.
All right.
Get loud, Mike. Yell at me.
Get loud,
tell
like
me.
I'm kind of excited right now.
now
Perfect.
there's a point in Moss's script where we've all got to go, because he's used the Windows.
I'll do it now. I'll just. Do
I
it
will
now.
pronounce it regularly.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I even kind of rolled my eyes like 3 days
Yeah.
ago.
Have you found them
Yeah.
yet? Did they roll under a counter or something?
Oh yes, they did.
Right,
Ah.
come on.
Wait.
Audacity,
Almost done.
Come on.
I have to do all the announcements.
I
forgot
wrote your
about
stuff for you, Leo.
I do appreciate that. I did go in and tweak my own,
That's okay.
but I do appreciate it because now I don't have to think about it. Yay!
Go to Facebook.
Except for pronouncing what Mike is doing.
Nah, I'll get it wrong.
Wub.
It's fine. I'll get it wrong. I'm happy with that.
Go to
What am I doing?
mintCast.
All right. Oh wait, one more thing.
Well, I'm ready, so.
I'm ready.
Post.
All right, I've got a clicky fan. Give that about 20 more seconds as it spins down. I don't capture that in the for the edit.
There. All right, now I'm ready.
I just hope my mobile stays up, people, because it didn't on distro hoppers.
No, it didn't,
Oh,
did it? No, Mumble kept dropping out, didn't it?
In 1 hour, it dropped out 3 times, I think.
Well, that sounds like a challenge.
Let's get.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, are we all ready to do the 3, 2, 1 record then?
Yep.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, record.
Good timing on the traffic.
Yeah, that was all right. Okay, so now to do 3, 2, 1, 0. We all ready?
Yep.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Zero.
Ooh, that was pretty good.
Yeah, considering 2 of us were in
And I'm on a
Switzerland, that
VPN.
wasn't bad at all. Yeah,
That was pretty well lined up.
that was
Yeah.
better lined up than I have heard.
Okay,
Switzerland has the secret.
More
it's
I guess.
over to the boss.
I'm totally not SSHing into my machine right now for stuff.
Okay, I'm going to mute my mic.
Ditto.
Hey, okay, I think I'm ready. First time in a while we've actually had everything good. See, days like today are days when I could really use a tiling window manager.
I had
Okay.
to make sure I hooked up a second monitor just so that I could spread everything out and see everything.
Yeah, I've got a second monitor right behind me, and I just it's so much trouble, and the desk
So
isn't
you're
that
going to
big.
run Pop-Oss next episode?
Ugh. It's mostly fine, but no, it's almost too heavy. All right, here we go. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 356. This is episode 356.5. Livestream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. We're in the mintcast channel in IRC at irc.spotchat.org. If you see something that you'd like to hear about, tell us. Send us email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the mintcast subreddit. Chat with us on Telegram, Discord, Facebook, or post directly at mintcast.org. This is Leo, and with me today is Joe,
Hello.
Tony Hughes,
Hi, guys.
Josh,
Hey, how you doing?
Moss,
Yes, I am.
and new regular Mike.
Hello.
We're recording on Sunday, March 7th, 2021. First up in our wanderings, I've upgraded my ears. Joe fixes everything. Moss gets ready to attack a monster. Tony Hughes takes a walk with tools. Josh is getting nasty. And Mike weeps over Wi-Fi woes. Then in the news, Steam Link is on Linux, Magia 8 is out, Brave searches for itself, and some Linux Mint news. In security, LastPass tracks you. In our innards section, we talk compression. And finally, the feedback and a couple suggestions. Well, in my wanderings, not a whole lot has happened over the past two weeks, fortnight, right? But I did pick up a set of headphones that I think might be the last set of headphones I buy for the foreseeable future. I did that with the mic. I got the Rode, what is it, Pod mic, I think, maybe a year ago, and I don't think I'll ever upgrade it unless it breaks. And then, so I had to do the same thing with the headphones. I got a set of ATH M50X with Bluetooth. And these, oh man, it's a nice cross between your standard consumer headphones like Beats and stuff like that, and a studio set, because I still do a lot of editing. I don't edit mintCast anymore. Owen handles all that. But when I edit Linux User Space, yeah, there's a lot of listening involved. And these are, outside of the bass being a little upfront, they're very flat. It's a studio set of cans. I love them for that, though.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they were like reference sound or not.
Yep, they're studio cans. They're meant for this. They're meant to be used in a studio and for editing and things like that. So that was the biggest reason I got them. It was actually between this and the DT770 Pros, the 80 ohm version, which are a little harder to drive for like a laptop or a phone or something like that. But I mean, you can still get decent sound out of them. But
Yeah, I haven't seen too many reference quality Bluetooth headphones. So
now,
that's
see,
interesting.
this is okay, you're not getting reference quality when you use Bluetooth. That wasn't my intention for them at all. I use them wired. So right now, they are wired. I'm not going to use Bluetooth. Bluetooth has been pretty good to me in Linux in general. But I certainly don't. I use the Bluetooth for my phone. I use it for my phone, actually. Now that I think about it, that's like the only thing I use it with. But it's convenient for that, right? I mean, I don't want to have a cable between my phone and my headphones. So it really gives that. And the other thing about these is that, as I mentioned, the cable is detachable. So you can use them as Bluetooth without having a cable. So you can detach the cable. And that was the thing that got me away from the DT770s. As far as reference goes, DT770s are actually, Bayer Dynamic, I think is the company. Those headphones are the standard, the classic. And I mean, if you're looking for what comes out of those headphones is exactly what what it's going to sound like, then that's really what you want. But that it doesn't have a detachable cable, and the extra little sprinkle on that was Bluetooth. So for about the same price, I think the M50 XBTs were $20 more. But oh man, it just those two features just blew it out of the water for me. And I haven't tested it yet because I haven't listened to 40 hours of Bluetooth audio yet, but supposedly these headphones are supposed to last for 40 hours. It's lasted for the few hours I've listened, so I'm not complaining.
Those are not cheap, Leo.
No, they are not. And that's why I
Yeah.
said I buy these and I don't buy another one unless they break.
You'd better
Right.
not. Your
Yeah.
wife
I
will
was
be
gonna
on your
ask-
case.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how much you paid for them because I have the ATH M50, like the old ones that have the wire built in,
Uh-huh.
and I got that for like 150. That was probably like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I had
Amazon has them $20 off for $179.
Yeah,
Ooh, yeah, that's
they're
a lot.
$179 for the black ones, but I bought the purple ones, so
Ooh.
those are $199, I think. But so the thing that pushed me over to
Yes,
get the
they
purple
are.
ones is because number one, everything is black. My monitor's black, my laptop's black, my computer is black, my microphone is black, everything's black. So I'm like, a little color would be nice. So I got the purple ones, but I also had leftover from Christmas, mind you. This is 3 months, a 3-month-old gift card. $25, so it made them the same price as the black ones. So I was like, yeah, a little color in my life wouldn't hurt. So I got the purple ones instead. So I do like that. They're really good. I really recommend them if you got the money to burn and you want a good set of headphones that will not disappoint. The only thing I don't like is the headphone foam stuff, the ear cups. They're made out of like a pleather, and I'm a hot guy, so like a warm guy,
Bragger.
not a hot guy. Hey, what can I say? So like I'll sweat easily, and yeah, after a couple
I
hours,
wonder-
these things will leave a little bit of a sweat on me.
I wonder if mine are made of a different material because I don't get like that at all with mine.
Well, I think it's just because I'm
You're
hot
just not
natured.
as hot as Leo.
Yeah, that's it, man. I'm
You
just
can
a
also-
hot-natured guy. At 72 degrees, if I start moving, I'm gonna sweat. So
You can also
it's-
replace the cushions with something a whole lot more breathable.
now here's the deal. I did that, and noise isolation. If you go velour, I bought a pair of velour ones to replace these, and honestly, it's not worth it. The sound isolation is so bad on those that I might as well be using. I have an open set of what are they called? Semi-open, where the cups don't fully enclose your ear. I use those for editing because my edit sessions are long and I'll start to sweat really badly. So those have velour on them. I don't care if there's sound escapes or anything like that, but on these headphones, I can't because the microphone will pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe there are some different ones. I saw some hybrid ones that might be okay, but anyway. Long story short, I love these headphones. They're fantastic. Then the last thing I did was I had an SSD that I thought died. I had talked about a couple episodes ago where my VMware machine died, but it didn't. The SSD didn't actually die. I did some testing on it. Seems fine. I'm using it now as a Ventoy stick, essentially, in a USB enclosure. And man, it's fast. There's not a single USB drive out on the market today that will even come close to this. What is this, like a 7-year-old SSD? Man, you actually get USB 3 speeds on this thing. It's fantastic. I love it. And we did some compression tests for the Linux innards later on in the show, and that's what I put all of those things on, and it really helped. I cannot express to you how much a 1 terabyte spinning hard drive versus one of these, it's fantastic. And little flash drives just don't even hold a candle to it. So I will say, if you've got an extra $8 and an SSD sitting around, it's totally worth it to buy one of these little enclosures and slap your SSD in there and use it as a formatted exFAT and just use it for everything. So I love that. But enough about my stuff. Joe, what have you been up to?
I've had some really bad luck with electronics recently. I was going to mention it earlier when you said I fixed everything. It's more like, no, everything was breaking.
No.
Yeah. I had to go back and refix my MMCX connections on the One Mores, the headphones again. Which means that I didn't do as good a job as I thought I did last time, and I thought it looked really good last time. Should have lasted a while. I kind of wish that the connector itself had some kind of tension reliever in it, because that would help a little bit. Really, the only thing kind of holding it in place on the inside right now is hot glue to prevent just pulling it out whenever you disconnect. I had a lot of trouble getting the last Anchor sound core put together, and then once again, like the one before it just wouldn't charge. I could go into the whole sordid tale of broken ribbon cables and screws popping out of the mountings, but it just annoys me. So, in the end, of the 4 of the Anchor sound cores that I got, I was only able to get one of them working properly, and I'm happy with that one, but I think I'm going to have to mark that whole product line as a no-go, at least for me. I took the custom-made cables off the one that wouldn't charge and put it onto one of the HBS 770s that I have sitting in reserve. I may do a few more of the 770s since I got extra parts right now, just for the fun of it. But I am looking for alternatives since I don't think they're making the 770s anymore, and looking at eBay, it's getting a little bit harder to order them in bulk. They're better than the 780s, and I'm definitely not seeing many of the 750s, but the 750s work pretty well too. Although you can find generic 750s. I ordered a pair of broken Samsung Level U headphones with active noise canceling because I really want to try out the active noise canceling on a pair of in-ears. It requires a solvent to break down the glue in order to take it apart properly. Basically, just like isopropyl alcohol will do it. And also got a really cheap set of iHome medallion headsets that my wife was able to find for $5 at a bookstore. I got 2 of them. They're in new condition, fresh out of the box. I think one of them has Iron Man on it, and the other one has Captain America. But I'm going to mod them anyway, even though they're brand new. I don't think it's going to get much battery life for now. I want to modify it so that it'll sit on the collar without moving, and so that it can also use the One Mores, which should improve sound quality. And I'm thinking about printing a new case for it and giving it a larger battery. Or at least a new back case, but I'll need to check where the microphone is on it, and if it's on the back, I'm going to have to get creative with how I situate the battery, but that'll leave the front so that the buttons can still be used without me having to completely redesign that as well. They do come apart really easy, so they should be pretty easy to work on. I did get the Level U's. I was able to get it taken apart with minimal damage to the casing, anything like that, where you're prying it apart. You got to be really careful and take your time. I probably wouldn't have taken it apart at all, except that instead of like a bad side on a headset like you normally get, it had a bad battery. So I had to take it apart to get to the battery. But I was able to use one of the batteries from the Anchors, which is a little smaller, but in order to buy like a new battery for the Level U, it was going to cost me $30-ish, and I didn't want to pay that much, at least not right now. I didn't do the MMCX mod, and I won't, because the call quality was terrible. Overall, I wasn't impressed with the top-end volume. It got a really shaky sound, but that might have been fixed by the MMCX. What really killed it for me was the fact that the mic was terrible. I don't know if I tugged it when I was taking it apart, but I also saw how to fix the mic. It's not a simple replacement. You also need to put a resistor in place, and I'm not sure what size resistor, because the only video that I could find on it was in a language that I don't understand. And you also have to pry the side apart in order to get to the mic. So I'd be gluing the whole thing back together again. And that's just, it's going to be more hassle than it's worth in the end trying to keep that thing running properly. And then, so those Samsung level U's for me. I'm thinking about resituating my tablets and seeing if I can get some more use out of them. I'm probably going to sell the 7140. And I may use the 7130 as a bedroom computer. I did spin both of those back up to make sure the batteries are still good and both updated easily with no issues. Even I now think that the 7130 is getting a bit long in the tooth, but I've yet to find a proper affordable tablet replacement that can run Linux, has a decent screen, and fast processing. I've kind of given up on my other requirement was, which used to be a spare battery in the keyboard for longer life. You don't seem to find that anymore. I did look through the Dell 7200, shows quite a bit of promise, but the price is in the $400 range. Very similar. The 3290, or no, not the 3290, the 5290 is sitting in the 300, 350, 400 range, depending on which one you get. I was able to order the Dell Latitude 5285. I thought I got lucky and ordered one for 120, and it should have been an easy fix with a bad display cable, which is what the description said was wrong with it. Turned out it had a lot more wrong with it, including the USB points, to the point where one of the times that I hooked it up, the magic smoke got out. So,
the magic smoke, I love it, and it's
Like
got
They
a
all run
distinct.
on smoke, Leo. You know that.
It's got a distinct smell too, doesn't it?
oh yes, very lovely smell. So I thought I had wasted $120, but there's plenty of usable parts in there, and I did message the seller, and the first thing he said was that I purchased it as is. So, but then like a day later, he refunded me the money anyway. So I got my money back for that. But I don't know if he wants me to send it back or not, because usually what happens is they say, okay, we accept the refund, send us this back, and then once we get it, we'll send you the money. But no. Refund accepted, sent me the money. After telling me that they weren't going to. I do have to say, though, for the few, like, the little time that it was running, it seemed to run Linux well. Everything loaded up, networking worked fine. There were lines in the screen at the time, but whatever. That would have been fixed by the $10 part that I ordered that was the replacement cable. The only issue that I saw was the touchscreen was inverted to the screen rotation, but that should not have been a difficult fix. That's just a bit of scripting to get that fixed. And then everybody's heard me talk about BT Sync before, but it's been acting up again. Basically, it quit syncing in the background, quiet failure, don't know what was actually wrong. I had to delete my shares and recreate them a couple of times to get things working again. So I'm thinking I may need to find a different syncing solution.
Just SSHFS and rsync to like 4 computers.
Yeah, I could do that, but the problem is that my phone doesn't do rsync.
Actually, are you sure? Because
I'm sure that if I got down to the nitty gritty and had Termux running in the background all the time, I could do something with rsync.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to have you set up a whole nother server or something or another, but I mean, Nextcloud does syncing too.
I was going to say that I was going to try, or I was thinking about trying Nextcloud and seeing
it's worth it. It's totally worth it. Go do it.
Setup is as difficult as it used to be.
Okay.
Like when Nextcloud first started. I understand that there's a Docker image, but then do I still have to do all the Apache setup in the background for larger files and things like that?
Let me just tell you this. Use Snap. It is way easier to deal with. I've got I wrote a how-to a long time ago, and it has served me well because I'll throw away Nextcloud because I'm like, whatever. I've finally settled on it, and I use the same documentation I wrote myself years ago to reset it back up. So things have not changed, and
Well,
I would
throw me your
assume that
notes on
things
that.
won't change. Here I'll put them in the show notes. But I'll give them. It's at my website at leochavez.org.
And throw me a link at that.
Yeah, I got you, man. I do. I used to do all of my storage on an external hard drive, but I have since created, or I've since started using an internal 4 terabyte drive, and I use rsync to copy all the junk from that drive to an external drive so that I can have a backup and all that. So let me see, BT Sync. I'll put it under your thing.
I will take a look at it during my quiet times.
Yeah, totally easy to do. It's way easier than you were thinking. I'll tell you that for sure.
Cool. Okay. Well, last thing. I still haven't done much 3D printing lately, but with the warmer temperatures, I did print another adapter for Olympic weights to standard bar, which allows me to greatly increase the weights for my deadlifts and my curls and a lot of my back exercises, which I have found very nice. So it's a really simple, 1.25 inch to 2 inch adapter, and I'm loving it. I'm probably going to print out 2 more so I can use the 35s along with the 25s on my standard bar that I use for lifting straight off the floor. And yeah, that's really been it for me. Moss, what have you been up to?
Well, I have installed Magia 8. I installed the Plasma version on the Kudu. The installer was more involved than most, but was understandable even to me, although it needed to be more graphical and use a larger font. I installed Magia 8 XFCE on the Inspiron, the same steps but with better graphics and fonts. It doesn't feel Mandrake level user-friendly, but it appears to be what I'm reviewing for episode 21 of DistroHopper's Digest. I have also grabbed Mbuntus and RoboLinux for further evaluation.
So on Magia, what's its claim to fame? Why would anybody want Magia?
Well, it is one of the extensions of Mandriva. The European non-Russian developers are behind it.
Okay, so this is probably an RPM-based distribution.
It is.
So, why would I want it? Any particular reason? Like, is there some?
Well, listen to episode 21 of DistroHopper's Digest, and you'll find out.
I see what you're doing. Okay, all right.
I really like Open Mandriva best of the remnants. Although you and I both have experience with PC Linux OS, but that's a little more of a fork. Speaking of distros, DistroHopper's Digest episode 18 was at 718 downloads today, and episode 19 leaped ahead of it with 721. We had a lot of fun doing episode 20, which is already at 424 downloads, and I'm already at work on the script for 21. A listener and old friend Firecat sent me a Series 5 YubiKey. He says it does not have NFC, and he apparently got it with a subscription to Wired magazine. I have had a lot of adventures with this, as it did not work after setting it up as 2FA on Bitwarden. Eventually, I somehow tricked Bitwarden into letting me delete that 2FA feature and set up another one. This is working. I'm a little concerned that it did not work the first time I tried to use it for 2FA, and a little concerned that I managed to defeat the security to fix it. I got all the recovery information saved, I printed it out and deleted the text file, and hopefully we'll find a memorable safe place for the printout. I'm still having trouble deciding what to do with it, as most of the uses suggested don't really tell me what they do or what they're for in words I understand. Yet even if I don't figure it out, I'm extremely grateful for the gift. We've done more work on It's Moss, adding articles, graphics, and people, with Dale Miracle being added to the team, and 1 or 2 others talking to me about future articles. We also have come to an agreement to share articles with Full Circle magazine, and to publish our articles under the same CC/BY-SA license. That's common something share alike. Yeah, yes.
Creative Commons, yeah.
Creative
this
Commons,
is,
that's it.
Yeah, this basically means you got to attribute who it came from, and if you make changes, you have to license it under the same license.
Right. And Dylan is going back over our site to attach the license info to our articles. Thank you, Dylan. Speaking of It's Moss, it's time to get your votes in on Distro Madness Round 2. Voting will close this Friday before moving on to Round 3. We're getting a lot of participation in this fun little diversion. We'd like to encourage you to become a member of the site. We have some plans in the works for making additional features for members only, and membership is free. My wife's new HP Zia 800 came in, and it is a monstrous thing of beauty. The keyboard seller sent the wrong keyboard, but the right one got here Friday. The seller did not ask for the other keyboard to be returned, so if anyone wants a Microsoft Sculpt keyboard without the mouse and 10 keypad, which are usually boxed with it, and is willing to pay the postage, I have one. We have received the Wi-Fi card. As soon as I'm feeling up to it, I will install the Wi-Fi card and plug things in. It came with Windows 10 on it, and she'll be dual booting it to Mint, or rather dual booting to Windows with Mint Primary. She talked to me last night and saying that she's had a whole lot fewer problems with Mint than she ever had with Windows. But the idea is we need this computer for her to learn computer graphics on, and most of the schools will either have Windows or Mac.
You didn't do the Windows as you've got it in the show notes, so we could all create.
That is in the show notes for every Distro Hoppers Digest, and you never hear me say it that way, do you?
Hang on. Do you also put $?
No, he didn't.
$$ Windows.
I do that when I'm mentioning MS Office, $, Office, yeah. Anyhow, I have been having a bit of a rough time with my mother's interment, work as a substitute teacher being intermittent at best, and other things, but I'll be okay. And Dresden is still plugging along in Book 10, Chapter 20. So where are we with you, Tony?
Well, okay. So like you said earlier on, we recorded the latest episode of Distro Hoppers Digest with Dale. This was a 1 hour long show after the edit, so as we're having 3 hosts and a new section, we've expanded a little, and the time taken to do it is getting a bit longer.
But we started it earlier for you.
We did. Thank you very much. It's a good thing I'm not doing a regular review anymore. It's due to my health issues. I'm not I am concentrating on the post-production side of the show. I'll still be there every episode, hopefully. Keep everyone on track.
Or complain about it getting off track.
Yeah, or complain about getting off track. So I did a bit of tech buying this week, but it wasn't computer related. Aldi in the UK did a sale of tools last week, and I picked up a couple of 10-watt LED battery portable workshop lights, which can also be used as power banks, so you can take them on the road as well. I also got a set of digital calipers, which only cost me £8. Which is around $11.20 or something on the conversion at the time, and I saw them at our local big box hardware store. They're around £20, so that was a good deal as well.
Yeah, that's a good price for calipers.
Yeah, and they're a nice set. They're obviously Chinese made. It says so on the box, but they've been made to a good quality. Yeah, really good ones. I had to buy a new LED bulb for my workshop stroke office, as the old one just stopped working. When I pulled it out, it was really hot, so obviously it'd been ready to pop for a while. But the replacement seems a lot brighter, so maybe the other one had been on the way out, like I say, for a while and started to dim, or just that the new one's a bit more efficient and emitting a bit more light. But yeah, my office seems a lot brighter these days. And then during lockdown, I've been walking quite a lot. I decided I was going to try and get 5,000 steps or more every day while lockdown happened, because I can't go to the gym and all that, because all the gyms here in the UK are closed, and I've been for most of lockdown. So, but I've gradually increased my level of walking, and I'm now regularly getting up 7,000-8,000 steps. So last Monday, myself and my good lady decided to do a long walk along the Blackpool Prom from South Shore, where we live, right away through to Cleveland's, which is about 8 miles away. Considering that a few years ago I wasn't able to walk from the lounge to the kitchen, which is about 10 steps, due to first I had a stroke, and then I got a really bad dose of arthritis, which took me a while to get over. My final tally for that day was just under 21,000 steps. So getting fit's good, and it's helping keep the arthritis controlled. So I have more good days than bad days at the moment. And talking last week to the guys, and I was looking at a Dell 9th generation i7 XPS 15 on the Dell website. They were flogging off some of their older kit at a reduction, but I ended up missing out on it because I didn't drop the dime on it early enough. So I'm now looking at an Entraware 17-inch Hybris, which for the price with 32 gig of RAM is less than £1,000, which is really good. I'd had my own PCI Express NVMe M.2 card, because the one that they're selling on the site is about double the price that you can buy a really good one on Amazon for. So I'd probably do that upgrade myself. Same with the SSD. I've just gone for the, looking at the price, the 240 stock one. When you look at their upgrade prices, it's not worth doing it. You might just do your upgrade yourself by buying whatever you want. But and I'm not sponsored by Entraware, but there is a link in the show notes if you want to go and check it out. Not yet.
Yeah, all 100 UK listeners.
There are a few shows sponsored by Entraware.
Most of them are based in the UK, but yeah.
Yeah, they are. Anyway, that's me for this fortnight. So, Josh, what have you been up to?
Thanks, Tony. Well, I can officially say that Crowbar Kernel Panic has a website. You can search for it, Crowbar Kernel Panic, all one word, fireside.fm. And that'll bring you to the website. And you can also now search for it on Spotify, which I found that the first episode is there and ready to listen to.
It should be everywhere, yeah. I mean,
I don't know, because Bo said he's looking on iTunes, and he didn't tell me if he found it or not, and I can't find it on my podcatcher, but Spotify definitely had it.
Interesting. What podcatcher do you use?
I use Pocket Casts.
Are those the same people that do Podcast Addicts, or is that a different thing?
No, it's different thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll well, while you're talking about it, I'll see if I can find it on iTunes. That might be easy to do.
Yeah, Bo said he was going to look, but he never got back to me if he found it or not.
Yeah, well, so the reason I ask is because the whole reason that you pay Fireside to handle all your stuff is because they handle that. You don't have to wonder if it's on one of these things. It should be on the things. That's what you pay for.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know what Fireside was, actually. Okay, well, now that I know that, it should be everywhere. Get your act together. No, just kidding. Anyway, so I also upgraded my CPU from a Ryzen 5 2600 to a Ryzen 7 5800X, which surprisingly has totally changed my Linux gaming experience. Like, I was not expecting this to change my gaming experience. I was just hoping to get... Well, originally I was hoping to get a new graphics card, but the graphics card market is crap right now, and you can't buy anything, so... I said, I'll get a CPU. So I went to Micro Center for the first time, which was really cool. I'd never been there, so it was like geek paradise. But anyway, yeah, I got the 5800X and I brought it home, installed it. Everything went smooth. And now I'm getting no stuttering in any of my games that I've tested so far. And in Elder Scrolls Online, where I used to be getting about 35 frames per second, I am now getting above 80 frames per second. So, yeah, it helped a lot. I can't believe how much it actually did help my gaming. But with Linux, obviously, there's a little bit of overhead with the CPU, especially where it has to translate things. So I can see exactly where that would be an issue, having a lower end CPU like I did.
What were you coming from?
The 2600 Ryzen 5. So that was a 6-core Zen Plus, I guess it would be. As far as I can tell on one of the sites I looked at, it's the 5800X is just about double the performance of my old processor in multi-core, and probably like 3/4 of the more power than my old one with single core. So it's a big difference. I also noticed that my computer seems to boot faster as well with this processor. I'm not sure why that would be, but yeah, it seems to do that as well. Anyway, also I actually installed TrueNAS on one of my old laptops to see how it goes, and I bought a hard drive enclosure that can support 4 drives, and Dale sent me 4 of his old drives that he wasn't using anymore.
What a nice guy.
Yeah, I know.
Dale's incredible.
Yeah, he's awesome. He got 2 4 terabyte drives he got, and he's going to add more later, but he figured he'd send me the old 1 terabytes that he had. So yeah, I have that set up, and everything was smooth, and I could log on to it and everything, but I couldn't get sharing to work with Samba. So I tried everything. I did everything normal. I created a user and everything like that, and it just wouldn't connect. So I gave up on it, came back, tried to reconnect, and it worked. I have no idea. I didn't change anything. It just mounted on my system, and now it works. So
you know what the problem is there?
What?
It's a Microsoft protocol.
I know.
No, it's the Linux rewrite of it. So I mean, it's not really Microsoft.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've
Short-circuit
had,
between keyboard and chair?
well, I've had nothing but trouble ever with CIFS and SMB in general, and I think this is the biggest reason why I just dropped it. I use SSHFS for my Linux machines, and I use just SFTP for my Windows machines, and honestly, everything works. It just works. You never have to wonder if on the other side, if the service needs to be restarted or anything like that. It just all of it just works. But
I don't know. I don't think that TrueNAS has SFTP, at least on the GUI part of it. On the
right.
I didn't see it. It has NFS, and I did try that, but that didn't work at all. So
yeah, and well, I mean, I dropped the appliance altogether to just so that I could do this, and because it's the same way in Open Media Vault, which are the guys that didn't like where FreeNAS was going, so they split off and just did it on Debian.
Right.
I used that for, I don't know, 2-3 years, and it was time to upgrade, and I was like, well, let me just do it on Ubuntu and see what happens. And yeah, I fell in love with SSH, SFTP, and SSHFS.
Yeah, I might end up getting rid of TrueNAS and actually just installing Debian on it. The only reason why I went with TrueNAS is because the drives that Dale sent me are ZFS, so I figured TrueNAS would have the most up-to-date at currently of ZFS, ZFS, I should say.
Okay, yeah,
so
for sure.
That's the only reason, but I might switch over to Debian and see if I can maybe get the newest OpenZFS on that. I don't know. I was reading a little bit about it, and it's a little confusing on how to get it. I know Ubuntu
says
has
the guy that loves ButterFS. What happened?
Well, okay, I still have that on my main system, but I'm just trying it out. I just wanted to see how it is, because the only experience I've had with ZFS is I tried to install Ubuntu on ZFS. Probably when it first came out, it was 1910, and it was really slow, and I added drives and made another pool with separate drives, not the boot drive, and it was still really slow. So
Interesting.
I kind of gave it up, and then I went to ButterFS, and I was like, well, I don't need to worry about anything with this, and it was just as fast, and I could put it on the boot drive and everything. So so I might end up going to that, but since the drives were already ZFS, I figured I would do this just to get the data off of them, and then I'll see where it goes from there.
Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, let me know how much you like ZFS. This might be the thing that converts you.
I don't know. It's just
No?
if I use BSD, that's fine because it's in the kernel, everything's good, whatever.
Right.
But with Linux, it's a whole DKMS module, and I know people say it doesn't break, but if it did break, you got a whole other problem. So
yeah, really,
I just don't want to have that issue. That's the only thing that's keeping me from ZFS. I probably would have already been on ZFS and not even did ButterFS if it was in the kernel and it worked and everything, supported it. But that's just my only concern about it.
Yeah, exactly. I got you.
So, yep, that was about it for me. So, Mike, I guess it's up to you.
Mike, are you there?
Oh, all right, my time.
Yay!
Let's
he's
see.
there.
My last 2 weeks have been marred primarily by Wi-Fi woes. It started about 2 weeks ago. It was actually the day that we recorded the last show. I was noticing that my download speeds were just atrocious. I was running speed test after speed test, and I was getting something around 5 or 6 megabits per second down, but still 30 to 35 up, which was really strange to me. Just like I do for pretty much every problem in my life, I immediately blamed my ISP and called them up a bunch, reset my router and whatnot. Eventually, after about an hour or so, I realized that it's not them because all the other devices in my house were just fine, getting the typical 430 to 500 down, and it was just one particular machine that it was affecting. So I devoted myself probably for about 10 days after that to just trying to figure out this Wi-Fi issue. I tried absolutely everything I could think of. The signal strength on my from my router was fine, was perfect. No packet loss whatsoever. I completely got rid of Network Manager and reinstalled it. I changed the kernel. I changed the kernel series. Eventually, none of this was working. So eventually, I tried booting up a live USB, and when I did that, everything was perfect again. So I thought, okay, great. I must have just done something at some point that messed up a configuration or a setting. So in the ultimate slap in the face, I went back and did a time shift restore, which did absolutely nothing for me. Now, I don't know if you guys have a lot of experience using a machine whose upload speed is significantly faster than the download speeds, but oh my god, it is like the 8th circle of hell. It's
that good, huh?
For those of you who believe in hell.
Right. And if you don't, it's the equivalent to water torture. It's something that at first it really doesn't bother you, but as the hours go by and the days go by, it becomes maddening. On the plus side, though, I found that my neighbors are really unlikely to call the police on anything if they haven't called on me this past week, shouting and screaming and swearing and whatnot. So. But ultimately, I ended up waving the white flag. I could not figure it out. I asked for assistance. Nobody else could figure it out either. So I just
nuke and pave.
That's exactly it. And it's for something like that. It's my personal data loss isn't a huge deal because I have just backup on backup of all my personal files. The thing that really hurts when I do a nuke and pave is having to get my configurations set again and re-downloading the packages that I had and just kind of tweaking everything.
More than most people here, I understand that completely.
That's why I do like an image backup every month of my whole system so that I can always go back just 1 month and just re-image the whole thing and see if that fixes anything.
Rescuezilla.
I'm working on that.
Rescuezilla.
Oh yeah,
Rescuezilla.
I haven't got it to work yet, Leo, but I'm working on it.
And I'm a huge proponent of Rescuezilla, and I actually forgot to mention that Rescuezilla, when I went back, did not solve the problem. And my last image was from about I would say probably 2 weeks prior to when I first noticed the issues.
Wow. So this issue may have just been there the whole time.
I honestly I think it's the hardware because I've had
Ah.
multiple problems with this computer, kind of over the last year or so, and it's I don't know. I contacted the manufacturer. They claim it's nothing to do with their issues, but I bet it's probably a firmware issue because they had just updated the firmware maybe a week prior to me having this issue.
Oh, so can
Have
you
you
roll back
checked
the
their
firmware, do you
forums or
think?
user forums? See if anyone else is having the problem?
They don't have user forums, unfortunately.
Aha.
Yeah,
So is it,
sorry. No, I noticed that sometimes with the USB stick, everything will work fine. There'll be nothing wrong with it. I mean, nothing at all. You'll install the system, turn it on, no Wi-Fi, or it connects and it's like slow, or something is just wrong with the system. But you put the stick back in and everything works fine. I have no idea what causes that, but I've had that happen several times with multiple distros.
It's so horrible. I just there's nothing more maddening than incredibly slow Wi-Fi and you just cannot figure it out for the life of you. So I really was beating my head against the wall for days over that. But like I said, I just gave up and decided to move on with my life. Aside from that, in better news though, I'm getting a Dell XPS, the developer edition, actually.
what?
Yeah, so my work is switching over to Dell machines. I guess Dell is going to be a vendor of ours, and so I don't really know if I should tell this story, but it's all right. If anybody from my work hears it,
Tell it.
this isn't me talking, so don't worry about it, guys at work. So the young lady who does the requisitioning for the machines, apparently she really knows nothing about Linux. Probably, it's only myself and two other people in the office who use Linux, and everybody else uses Windows. So I guess when she was going through their website, the Dell website, to order these machines, she couldn't find a configuration that had Linux on it except for the developer edition. So everybody else in the company is getting the standard base model 8 GB Dell XPS 13s, and me and two other people are getting the fancy, shiny developer editions.
What a day to use Linux, right?
It was nice, and I had to play it off a little bit because she called me up a little panicked, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I tried as hard as I could, but I have to get you a different machine than everybody else because they just didn't offer Linux on the machine that we had everybody else get." I said, "Oh,
Aw.
That's like music to my ears right there.
I'll make do. It'll be okay."
Right, yeah. How much so what kind of specs are in that XPS?
So the one I'm gonna have is gonna have the 11th gen i7 Intel processor. It's gonna have 16 gigabytes of RAM, and the SSD I believe was 500 or 500-ish, maybe a little over
Man,
500.
you gotta walk into work as soon as you get that laptop and be like, this isn't ideal, but I'll be okay. Thank you for all the hard work that you did looking for this.
Yeah, I'll put a little glycerin in my eyes to make it look like I'm tearing up, and I hate this thing so much, but I'm doing it for you, that kind of thing. But
Don't
Exactly.
overdo it, it'll take it away from you.
now, the one downside to this, though, is that I'm a very obsessive person, especially over something that I definitely want. So I've been on the order status page on the Dell website at least 15 or 16 times refreshing this thing, and it has not moved in the last 10 days. Apparently, they're having some kind of a shortage at Dell on the i7 processors, so I'm having to wait for that, which is really crazy. It's really driving me crazy. So, Dell, if you're listening to this, I'm on a podcast now, and Leo says that basically makes me a celebrity akin to George Clooney.
True.
So give me a little Hollywood treatment here and speed this process up for me, please.
You heard him. You heard him, Dell. All right, get to work.
But aside from that, I've just been playing a lot of Nintendo 64 the last week. I dusted off Banjo-Kazooie. Or if you ever played that one, Joe.
Nope, never.
That's the one that my wife is obsessed with. She loves Banjo-Kazooie.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I love that game. I've been playing it since I was about probably 16 or so, and I'd really like to get my hands on Banjo-Tooie, which was the sequel, but I think that thing goes for over $200, I believe.
Wow.
Just loose, even without a box or instruction manual or anything like that. So unlikely that I'll be purchasing that anytime soon. But that's been about it for my last 2 weeks.
All right. Well, then we'll head down to the news. So, like clockwork, Linux Mint has released another monthly update. This is coming off of the heels. We actually had Linux Mint news the past 3 episodes, which is not normal. Last episode, we were talking about Clem learning that there are way too many people on Linux in general, but his focus was on Linux Mint, that just don't do updates. And through some conversations, I go back and, the only real public stats that are out there are from Snapcraft, right? So Snap. And there are quite a few people on, to kind of drive the point home, you can see that there are folks on Linux Mint 17 and 18 on some applications, like Telegram is a very popular one to be used on really old machines. You saw like Ubuntu 17.10, you saw, and that's been, out of end of life for a long time, coming up on 3 years now, maybe 4 years, and yet it still shows up in the stats. Pretty far down there, but same with Linux Mint and everything else. So the problem is pretty pervasive, and the article that we went over last time was really just a lament to that. And Clem had mentioned that in the next blog post we would talk about what was going to happen about all of that. So that's the main topic, I think, in this thing, or at least it's the main topic that everybody that likes to hate on Mint ran with. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many articles I've seen of Linux Mint turning into Microsoft Windows by forcing you to install updates whenever they feel like it, right?
Yeah. That's not what Clem said, people.
No,
it's
that's
not. So, because of all of this, I want everybody to know exactly what Clem said. So, I want to read it. It's only a couple of paragraphs, but all of the juicy bits are here. And when you read one of those articles that's the sky is falling, Linux Mint's going to be dead, you can at least know what Clem said. So, he says, we started working on improvements for the update manager in this month. In the next release, the manager won't just look for available updates. It will also keep track of particular metrics and be able to detect cases where updates are overlooked. Some of these metrics are when the last time updates were applied, when was the last time packages were upgraded on the system, for how many days has a particular update been shown, etc. In some cases, the update manager will be able to remind you to apply updates. And here is the statement right here that I think people's heads exploded over. In a few of them, it might even insist. We don't want it to be dumb and get in your way, though. It's here to help. If you're handling things your way. Now, here is the rebuttal to everybody's long-winded posts about how Linux Mint's going to burst into flames. He says, if you are handling things your way, it will detect smart patterns and usages. Further, it will also be configurable and let you change the way it's set up. So he goes on to say, we have key principles at Linux Mint. One of them, and this is important, one of them is that this is your computer, not ours. We also have many use cases in mind and don't want to make Linux Mint harder to use for any of them. We're still forming strategies and deciding when and how the manager should make itself more visible. So it's too soon to speak about these aspects and get into the details, which probably interest you the most here. So far, we worked on making the manager smarter and giving it more information and more metrics to look at. So what are y'all's first impressions about this?
It sounds quite sensible to me. I suppose the ones that they're probably going to insist on will be the really severe security bugs. Right. And they'll probably explain it some way in the update manager why they want you to update this particular one, because it's a severe security bug. And if you don't, you're putting your computer at risk.
Right. And, I think they already do that. I mean, there's already a change log in there, and it tells you exactly what's going to happen when you apply a specific update. But, let me let everybody else get in here. What do y'all think?
I wonder if maybe they're going to start doing, for something very, very old, like maybe EOL Mint 17 or whatnot, maybe they'll start putting a desktop notification up to kind of remind you and say, hey, it's time to upgrade your distro. It's, you're really out of date now and you're not receiving security updates. Maybe to kind of throw it more in your face to make you aware of the fact that you really need to upgrade now.
Yeah, I forgot what he said in the last post, but it was like frustrationware or something like that, where like it'll frustrate you, right? I mean, it keeps popping up. It's like, hey, you're on an end of life thing. It's not getting updates anymore. You're basically broken and unsecure. Upgrade, and so that it's just gonna nag you, right? Like, I mean, I think for people on end of life software, that's a small price to pay to continue to use that software that is quite obviously not a great piece of software to be using at this point, because it's going to be unsecure forever now.
And that's kind of what... Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and for those people using end-of-life software because there's a particular program, but they know about the security risk, so they use that OS offline. They're not going to get this nagging because they're not going to be updating the update manager.
Right.
So they're not going to get that nagging anyway. It's only people that are online with an unsecure operating system.
Yeah, and I think it is as important to read the whole insist line, right? But it's even more important to read that line that I emphasized, which is it will also be configurable. To me, that sounds like you'll be able to turn it off, altogether. If you do not want it to ever nag you ever about anything, you can go in and turn it off. But by default, people just don't. And so the default is going to be, hey, you should update. Hey, you should update. Hey, there's this thing that's going to blow up your machine if you're not careful, so you should probably update.
And even if they didn't provide that option, this is Linux, so if you really wanted to, you could go in and shut down the update manager and do updates manually, or install a different update manager if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Or, and here's the big one, you can find another distro that doesn't do that.
I mean, you absolutely can, but honestly, I'm partial to Mint though.
But if you do find another distro that doesn't do that, realize you're going to be updating when you install this new distro.
Yeah. You get all the things you don't want. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen about a half dozen articles, directly saying Linux Mint is going to turn into Windows, and I just don't understand it. I don't get it. It's fear mongering, and I don't know why they didn't read the next sentence. The literal, actual next sentence starts to tell you exactly why they're not going to do what everybody's saying they're going to do.
More views.
Well, yeah, I know.
It's not clickbait, that, is it? You can't get people really worked up and watching your video.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the reason why it works is because it's Linux Mint. And man, anytime Linux Mint steps out of line, out of the this is the way Ubuntu does it, but this is the way, as soon as Linux Mint does something different, everybody jumps on the bandwagon of, Linux Mint sucks. And it's like, but I like it this way. It's fine this way. I don't see why it's necessarily a bad thing or why the sky is falling. But, and you wouldn't get that vibe from the articles.
And since you mentioned Ubuntu, I mean, Ubuntu is really annoying with their updates, because if you ever, when you get the little notification that you have updates available, if you hit remind me later, it'll literally remind you like 30 minutes later. It doesn't give you any time to digest it at all.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things was Popey. Alan Pope wrote a blog post. I don't know if it was necessarily in favor of Linux Mint, but it was in favor of updating and nagging in general, because it's a good idea. Because people that don't necessarily pay attention to their updates, don't pay attention to their updates. So a little message saying, hey, click the button is nice. It's good.
Yeah, I was going to say when Linux, I'm running 19.3 on my main tower at the moment, and when that's end of life, there's a piece of software that is no longer available. It's been upgraded a couple of times, and it doesn't quite do what I want it to do. So I'm probably going to keep 19.3 on the hard drive, but take it off the internet and install whatever is the latest Mint at the time. It'll probably be 21 by then.
When you're driving that one, the wheels don't fall off till 2023. So you've got plenty of time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, it'll either be 21 or 22 when I've actually got to upgrade.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll just use that for that particular piece of software. Everything else will get transferred onto the other machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Or onto the other hard drive.
I think that's a big part of the whole John Wallace saga thing too, where we're doing the Linus scans or whatever, and the conclusion is just, man, if you want to be secure, you just air gap the thing, take it off the internet.
Yeah.
You can just take the hard drive and run it through a VM.
You could do that too.
Yeah, it could, but because I've got the IC dock and I've got the ability to have multiple drives in this machine, I'll just have it and I can boot into it whenever I want and use that bit of software and then go back into the other one.
Even better.
I'll disable the Ethernet port and the Wi-Fi port, and so it won't connect to the internet.
Well, I know I'm a little late to this whole thing, but I wonder how many of those older Linux Mint installs are like people that have like put somebody on Linux Mint and just kind of like left them to their own device.
Right.
I don't know, because I don't know if you mentioned this or not. I was gone for a second there, but I kind of wonder.
That is a extremely salient point. That is important, because how long has Linux Mint been the go-to to give to people that don't know how to computer? It's been pervasive as far as a first step, and as far as a computer that I want to give you that I never want to have to service or anything like that, right? So this might nag those people into calling the person that gave them the thing in the first place and just maybe get them upgraded to 20, and they don't have to think about it again for 5 more years.
While we're on the subject, Linux Mint 18 goes end of life next month.
Oh, already?
I feel targeted, Leo, because I actually set my dad up on Linux Mint 19.1, but haven't bothered to go back and update him at all in the last couple of years.
Well, see, that is not necessarily that bad, because he's still on a supported Ubuntu base, and he can still get updates, but you don't necessarily have to upgrade to 19.2 or 3 or whatever comes beyond that, I guess, or even 20 for a long time.
No, but you made a good point, and I probably should show him how to do it, so that way when the time does come, he's not relying on me or my memory to do it for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just write
Not
a little instruction guide, because it's not that bad to upgrade Linux Mint to the next version.
No, it's easy. The point releases are really simple, and even when it comes time for a major release, he doesn't really have a whole lot in the way of anything more than just kind of default settings, and probably not even any personal documents on his computer. So it should be a pretty straightforward thing to take care of for him. I think it would be better if I showed him how to do it first.
Yeah. I mean, once you've run through one of those upgrades, they're all the same. I mean, they all feel the same. And Linux Mint does a great job on the point upgrades of walking you through everything. So yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why even someone that would consider themselves not good with computer, that they would still be able to get through the point releases. Now, the major releases, it's a little more touchy. A lot of times you do have to go into the terminal to make a change or two, 19 to 20, I think? Or maybe it was 20 to 20.1. You know what? I don't remember, so I'll stop talking.
19 to 20, you had to go into the terminal.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and so, I mean, those are a little more difficult, but that's if I do that for anybody, I'll just tell them to install TeamViewer, and I'll install TeamViewer, and then I'll do it real quick.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Just to say, Moss was right. I'm just looking at the Mint page, and it says 18 is end of life, April 2021.
Yeah,
18 and all 18-point releases.
Yeah.
My guess will be that if there's anybody going to be getting nagged here pretty soon, it's you, whatever you're on, Linux Mint 18. So, if that's it for the update thing, anybody, any other comments, anything else?
The only comment I can say is there was one guy who mentioned that like Linux Mint before would always rate each update like severe or
right.
whatever, could break
Yeah.
the system or whatever like that. And I thought I thought that was kind of funny that they mentioned that, because now it's like they're doing the opposite, where it's like everything's good, just install it.
Yeah. Well, I think they've learned from that mistake. I mean, even when Clem was writing about why he was doing stuff like that, you look back on it now and you can see why that was
Right.
a mistake, and that's why they've changed. That's why in 19, I think 17 for sure had that rating system where it would quite literally skip kernels. And
Yeah.
then I think 18 is when we got the regular, where updates are just updates, and then 19 and 20. But I mean, I would kind of consider it being what would you say, like unstable, right? If you downloaded it and 1% of your user base now has issues with that particular kernel, that's an issue, and I can totally see why he would rate that as I think it was a 5 or something like that, where it was dangerous to apply this or whatever.
It was like red
because,
too.
Yeah, because his main focus was stability and not necessarily security. But yeah, as I said, I mean, look at Linux Mint now. He's realized that was a mistake. So, yeah, just know where we've come and know where the stance is now, because arguing that is kind of it's old hat now. It
doesn't matter what was, it matters
it,
what is.
If you look at it, he didn't change the rating system. He just stopped having it apply to anything.
Oh, there's still ratings in there?
Oh, yeah.
Really? How do you get that?
It's just right there on your, it's on mine anyhow.
No.
I still see, this. There's a different icon for, there's the yellow exclamation point and there's the red stop sign, but they don't do anything anymore.
Oh, okay. That must be a mate thing, because in Cinnamon, I see a little up arrow for software update, a globe for third-party stuff like PPA stuff, and then I forget what the icon is. I don't have any security updates right now, but there's an icon
like a
for that too. Oh, is it? Yeah, it's a shield. That's right.
And then a lightning bolt for the kernel.
Right.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're still, I mean, they're differentiated somehow, but yeah, I mean, by default, everything is selected and you just do everything. And I think that's the right way. That I mean, unfortunately, there will be bugs, but that is the right way to handle it, because very few people ever run into really game-breaking issues. But still, I mean, it happens.
I just run all the updates, and I've never had any issues.
Yeah, I don't. And
Yep,
I even went through, I have custom, not custom, it's Keysax Mesa, which is basically following GitHub, and I have kernels, like weird kernels installed on here. So
I do too.
Yeah, and I update
No
them
problems.
just whenever they go. I was always a little wary about the Mesa, but I mean, and that has nothing to do with Linux Mint. It's a PPA, but I've even with stuff like that, I've not had any issues. Anyway, real quick, the other stuff in this article is basically bug fixes. XApp, Warpinator, Nemo, Cinnamon menus, Nemo Dropbox, Nemo Media Columns, Nemo Python. They all had a significant number of changes over these past couple of weeks. There were some memory leaks. Things would just straight break. Bold fonts weren't bold, things like that. So lots of
and a
cleanup.
new point release for Hypnotics.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
which
Hypnotics
is not
as
in
well.
the newsletter, but there's a new point release on Hypnotics.
And what did we say that actually was? Did I upgrade it? Oh, here it is. We said that it was added keywords to the desktop file and fixed navigation to the edit page. So just small things to make things better, I think. And that's fantastic to see. All that software still getting worked on. I think that's great. Clem also mentions an issue between Linux Mint 20 and 20.1 that had to do with the NVIDIA driver. So if you were on an NVIDIA card and you upgraded from 20 to 20.1 and you were booted to a black screen or something like that, yeah, he goes into why that happened. It was it's a technical description. Basically, when you do the user merge thing, things tend to break because there are some essentially some shortcuts that just don't work. That are supposed to work, but they don't work. And it really boils down to Ubuntu not being reproducible. So that ended up causing a whole lot of headache. They've gone in and fixed it, but I mean, the idea is that, yeah, because things weren't reproducible, they actually, it just went right over everybody's head. And then some Cinnamon improvements. So it looks like Cinnamon relies on GPU drivers and uses a lot of RAM and sped up with NVIDIA. So that is nice to see. And I think that's about it. So yeah, Cinnamon should be running a little bit faster on just about every hardware and running a little bit more stable on NVIDIA hardware specifically. So always good to see. All right. So next up, Steam Link. Steam Link. What's a Steam Link?
Well, Steam Link is the software that was originally released for the Raspberry Pi, so that you could use it like the Steam Link hardware that you could buy from Steam. They stopped selling it, 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago.
Yes, sadly. And they don't sell the controller either. I love that controller because it's a mouse and a touchpad and a clicker and a you can set it up to do keyboard stuff too. I love that that controller.
When they stopped selling the Steam Link itself, they did a massive sale. I think I got one for like $10-15.
They were down. The very last batch was sold for $5 free shipping.
Yeah. And I bought one, and I do have one of those. It just doesn't come out of the drawer very often. I tested it out. That was about it. Oh, and I did the fix so that you could install Plex on it. And
what? Hold on. What?
Yeah. They actually came out where with the Steam Link hardware you could install Plex on it. So I did that too.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I use that for a little bit, but I have computers hooked up to all my TVs anyway for some crazy reason, so I don't really need it. But I also tested out this Steam Link app, which is now available across all of Linux, and you can install it the Flatpak directly from the App Store. So I did that. And
yep, I think that's super important. So for those of you on Linux Mint, just pop open the software manager, search for Steam space Link, and there it is. Just install it, and you'll be able to play games remotely from your Windows box if you've got one of those to play games on.
Yeah, and it's good for games that aren't available on Proton yet or don't play well on Proton yet. And I did install it, and then yesterday when we were discussing what we were going to do on the show, I did turn it on and run it just to see how it ran. Now, at first, I was pretty impressed with it. I mean, the quality, just from starting up the game, was very good. It looked great, very crisp, a lot better than running Borderlands 3 natively, which has some issues with Vulkan on my machine for some reason. And then I tried playing for a little while, and the more I played, the more I noticed a little bit of control lag. Like, I would try to shift to aim, and that's a very, snap this direction, get on target, point and shoot game. And so that being a little laggy made it a little bit more difficult. And then anytime there was a lot of action, a lot of movement, it would get not necessarily jittery, but the quality would go down overall. And Steam Link will automatically test your connection to see how fast it is. And I believe it said that there was a 55 Mbps connection between the computer in my garage and the computer where Borderlands 3 was running. So I should not have had any problems streaming from one to the other. And anyways, but yeah, it got very pixelated, very blocky, and then sometimes it would get a little bit jittery. So it's still usable, but it's not something that I would recommend.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is the laptop that I've got that I run on most of the time just does not do games. I mean, it's Intel only. So being able to do this is pretty fantastic. And I mean, obviously I have Mint on it. So it's nice that it's available in Flatpak, and Flatpak is available in Mint out of the box. So all I got to do is just Steam Link, enter, install, done.
I guess it would be better for a either a lower resolution game or something with a little bit less action. But then most of those would probably run a whole lot easier through Proton.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, because like, so I've been playing Path of Exile lately, and in Linux, it's great until the screen gets, full of just zombies and stuff. It will really start to choke up right about there. On Windows, it doesn't. So I think that's going to be what I test. It is action packed, that game. It is very twitchy. Like if you miss something, you're dead. So you've got to
get a better processor. I bet you it'll fix it.
Honestly, that's something that I need to do. And I'm looking at the 5800X as well. I'm just not ready to spend the money on it yet. But this is going to give me the opportunity to try it out. Run the game on Windows, Steam link it to my Linux laptop, and just see what kind of performance I get out of it. And I mean, if I die, I'm bad at the game already, so I die all the time. But if my percentage of deaths per minute go up, I'll probably not continue playing it like that.
If you want me to try it to see if the processor fixes anything, because I have a really low-end graphics card, so it would probably be a good test if you wanted me.
Yeah, go for it. It's really simple to do. I think you just got to get on the newest Proton and install Path of Exile, and then when you're in there, the settings let you change the renderer from DirectX to Vulkan. That's really all you got to do, and it runs pretty amazing. So I guess you'd probably get to like level 30, level 40 when the rooms start to fill up with junk. And the game is free, so I mean, no cost or anything like that to get started.
All right, good. I'll have to install that and see if I have any luck with it.
There you go, and that's basically the next episode of Crowbar Kernel Panic, right?
Maybe.
So a lot of the cool stuff about this was that Collabora is one of the companies that is a Linux company that partnered with Valve to do a lot of the heavy lifting on this one. Anyway, Magia 8. So Moss, another Magia, another bit of time carved out for Magia.
Yeah, just a little bit. We don't need to talk much. I'll have more Mandriva type information and check it out. But Magia 8 is out. It's in Plasma, GNOME, and XFCE flavors. The distro is developed by most of the original French Mandrake team, and many more members have been added to the team. There's not that much to say about it yet, except tune in to next episode of Distro Hoppers Digest, and you'll hear more.
Nice. So this next one is something that I'm really interested in. Mike, I hope you're stable. You have a stable connection for this one, because I think you have a lot to say about it. I think, maybe, we'll see. But Brave browser to challenge Google, and this is in the search space.
This is so cool. I came across this the other day, and I ran onto it, I believe, on its boss. But yeah, Brave Browser has acquired Tailcat, and they're a web search engine. And so Brave has acquired them, and they're going to actually use them to rival Google. So the new search engine is going to be completely private. It won't track or profile its users. It's going to offer a paid ad-free version, as well as a free version that does show ads. The ads in the free version, though, are going to be private. They're going to be those private Brave ads that you typically get just by using the browsers. So the company promises that they're not going to track their users through those ads at all. The really cool part, though, is that the Brave search engine is going to be community-driven, with anonymous contributions to improve search results and page rankings. So they're not going to use any kind of a secret algorithm like Google does. So it's all going to be user-driven. The release date right now hasn't been announced, but you can go on to brave.com and sign up for early access.
I'm super excited about this. One of the biggest complaints about DuckDuckGo is that it never learns, right? And so you end up with the situation where if you search for something, the thing that you want may be on page 2 or page 3. And my rebuttal to that, and because I use DuckDuckGo all the time, and I can usually get whatever I want, and I'm talking like 99 times out of 100, I can get what I want on the front page by using the minus symbol to filter out results using a specific word, and using quotes to say, if this phrase doesn't exist in the page that you find, then throw it out. I don't want that. I need it spelled exactly like this with this space and this whatever. So usually I can get, in the first three clicks, I can get exactly what I want. But you're saying that Brave's search engine, this Brave search, is going to learn from the users, and the algorithm will bubble things that are more interesting to the top, just because more people clicked on that than this or something like that. I think that's what that sounds like. And
right, and the best part is that they're not going to be tracking you while they do it, so
Right.
it'll all be anonymous page ranking. So instead of being put into a filter bubble the way other search engines love to do, there's going to be none of that. It's going to be similar to DuckDuckGo in that regard, but maybe, possibly, hopefully, just a little bit better.
Yeah, and
The interesting thing here, Leo, is that we had two different articles on this because Brave announced that they were developing their own search, and another site said Brave acquired Tailcat, which is already a web search engine, and they're just going to rebrand it. So a little bit of
everything that I've heard has been the Tailcat acquisition thing. So honestly, I don't know. Whatever they do is going to be fine with me.
Everything that I've read, though, is it's more than just a rebranding. They're actually going to retool Tailcat
Right.
too. So Tailcat was doing they were doing some work with the user weighted search results, but I think Brave is going to really kind of kick that into high gear and make sure it's completely private. And then, of course, they're gonna add the private Brave ads to the free version as well.
Yeah, I think to be very honest with you, Brave and Firefox are my two favorite browsers for these things. Brave is prioritizing privacy and security, and they're putting their money where their mouth is, and so is Firefox. They're doing the super cookie thing. Actually, one thing that we didn't mention is on Firefox 86, you've got the super cookie thing where all your cookies are isolated, so there's none of this cross-site cookie sharing BS where Facebook can look into the page that you're on right now and scoop all those cookies out and track you and all that. And then they also they added some picture-in-picture stuff, which is kind of interesting. But the
but
security
if you're on
stuff, the
Facebook
privacy
on
stuff.
Firefox, you can run that in a container too.
Exactly, but that container still does not necessarily mess with the cookie stuff. So this is, even if you're not running the container, they're going to isolate those cookies. So the container is an add-on that you have to add. This is going to be for everybody, and I think that's the most important part. So I'm excited to see this. I'm extremely excited to see what Brave is going to do with this. I hope it gives regular folks that don't use like characters in their search to help kind of filter out what they don't want, help them get what they want on page one. So there's just one less thing to complain about using a non-Google search. But I argue using Google search now is the most limiting thing in the world anymore, because Google knows generally what you like to see and will throw what you want to see out the window and just show you what you like to see. So they put you into this never-ending circle of you're going to keep finding the same things over and over and over and over and over again because, well, they know you. They've profiled you, and so they're going to try and put that kind of stuff in front. And sometimes it works. I mean, obviously, most of the time it works. People are generally pretty happy with Google search. But when you're starting to branch out into things that you've never thought about before, the searches are just as good as DuckDuckGo.
Oh, you're right. It's Google really becomes basically an echo chamber after you've used it for any significant period of time.
Yep, unfortunately. But people like it, man. People like hearing what they like to hear, I guess. So the last minute thing that I threw in here because I just wanted to hear Mike's opinion on it was Star Labs adds core boot support to all of their laptops. You just go out, grab the update, install it as a BIOS update, and you've got core boot availability. Does this matter to you much, Mike? Because you're the only one with the Star Labs laptop, so you're the only one affected by it.
Well, I guess the good thing I was prepared for this because I didn't even see this in the notes.
Woo!
Yes.
Yeah, I seriously put it in there like right before the show. So, hey!
Yeah, no, it is very important to me. And I've actually been kicking the tires with Core Boot on Star Labs over the last few weeks or so.
Wow.
It's really good. It started off a little shaky. I had to come off of Core Boot initially and go back to AMI just because it was I had this weird bug where every time you'd close the lid on your laptop to suspend the machine, when you'd wake it back up, for some reason the display would just stay black. It would never actually reactivate the display.
Oh,
So, yeah, I'm not really sure what that was, but they seem to have ironed it out with the newest releases. I think it was just this past week they updated Core Boot on Star Labs, and so far so good. I haven't run into any issues that are game stoppers for me.
very cool. All right, and this is the whole thing about Core Boot is that it's open source, right? There's none of the firmware that's baked into your laptop is going to be hidden from you anymore if you go with Core Boot instead of staying with AMI what it ships with.
Exactly. In addition to that, it's also very, very minimal too. So they cut way down on the amount of code needed for core boot
Wow.
versus something like regular AMI.
Yeah, and if you ever talk to a developer that has an eye on security or privacy or any of that kind of thing, that's one of the things that they'll tell you is that the more code that you have, the more unwieldy it gets, and the harder it is to make anything secure.
Right. I mean, that's why we all love WireGuard over OpenVPN, right?
Yeah.
Because OpenVPN is hundreds of thousands of lines of code or something like that,
Yeah.
versus WireGuard, which is very, very minimal.
Yeah, and one of the Linux innards that I want to do here pretty soon is setting up WireGuard and actually using WireGuard. So on a VPS or here at home, if you leave and you want to connect back to your own stuff, I think WireGuard is a great solution for stuff like that. So yeah, I wanna do an innards about that one of these days. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, outside of the sneaky extra article, we'll head on down to the security update. So, Mike, I love that you are as interested, let's just say, right, in security as I am. So this is one that you scooped up, and that I get to just kind of nod my head in the background and be like, "Yeah, I told you, I told you."
Yeah, I like that you use the word interested rather than paranoid.
Yeah, you know, deep down that's what it is. But for me, anyway. But yeah, interested.
Yeah, so LastPass apparently is not having a good time lately. So a German researcher has found that the LastPass app for Android contains 7 trackers in it. 4 of those trackers are from Google for analytics, and then the other 3 trackers are a mix from AppsFlyer, Mixpanel, and Segment, all of which are used for marketing and tracking across the web and domains. The LastPass, somebody from LastPass came out and said that users can absolutely opt out of it, but I have 2 issues with that. The first is that when you're dealing with a security product, trackers and things of that nature should be opt-in, not opt-out. But the second issue that I have with that is the German security researcher who actually found that he wasn't able to opt out of this at all. So not really sure if that's maybe an update that they're planning to rush out now that they've been exposed. Here's how you can opt out of all of this. But apparently, as of yet, they don't allow you to opt out. But like I was saying, it's really not the first security issue for LastPass. In 2015, they were hacked. It exposed user email addresses and some hashed passwords. Luckily, they were hashed. 2019, Google's Project Zero found that LastPass was exposing the last password used to websites, which is obviously no good either.
Whoa, what?
It's probably one of the absolute last things you want from a password manager.
Right. I mean, I totally get that. I mean, what? Wait, what? I don't understand why you would even. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
No.
Just, hey, I changed the password and everything, but hey, why don't you have it anyway? What?
And they found not even they weren't sharing it to the domain that it belonged to. So if you were using, they weren't leaking your Facebook password to facebook.com. If you last used facebook.com, they would leak that password to whatever domain you went to next.
Oh, that's even worse than I thought.
Right.
Whoa. So that is your current Facebook password can be leaked to the next place that you try to log into. Am I understanding that right?
That's what Project Zero found in 2019.
Wow, that's insane.
This is why I use Bitwarden.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
Same here.
Wow. That's crazy. And so one of the things that I noticed on this was they've got one of the trackers is Mixpanel, whose main claim to fame is advertising. And I guess I can understand that for LastPass users that don't necessarily pay for LastPass, which you're getting I've played games way too long. I don't know what the word is. Nerfed? it's not nerfed in the real world. That's just a gaming thing. But like, LastPass is now getting worse for free users in the future. But I could see this. I could see this mixed panel being on the free users, but it doesn't look like that's the case. If you pay for it, you're still having to deal with Mixpanel, who's an advertising company.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
the weird thing is I used LastPass back in 2010 or 11 or so, and at the time I loved them. They were great. But then maybe 2015, I believe it was, they were acquired by, I think, LogMeIn. And it seems like ever since they were acquired, they've really kind of gone downhill since then. So I'm not too sure what's going on.
Wow, listen to this. Mixpanel's privacy does not apply to end users. So you, as a person running LastPass, it refers to its customers who are, so LastPass would be Mixpanel's customer. They pay Mixpanel to do their stuff, or Mixpanel pays them. And so you are not protected by any kind of privacy policy or anything like that. And so you, who are tracked by Mixpanel, have no right to delete your personal information from Mixpanel's servers. What? What? Hang on, man. This is really crazy.
And if it weren't for this German security researcher, who knows if we ever would have found out about this? Because it didn't seem like LastPass was too forthcoming with this information. I mean, like I said, they already stated that you can opt out, but the researcher says you can't. So
right, and so I'm really curious now about Bitwarden, and Bitwarden does have trackers.
Has 2 trackers.
But neither
one
of
for
them.
Google Firebase Analytics and one for Microsoft Visual Studio crash reporting.
Right. So the normal stuff, I guess you would say. And then, but the amount of permissions too is very different. The Bitwarden doesn't need to know your phone state. It doesn't need to be able to. Oh, what was the other one on LastPass? Let me see. It was access fine and coarse location. It was read external storage, and it was record audio. Those are all LastPass ones that Bitwarden doesn't need to function. And
yeah, I don't remember allowing anything when I installed Bitwarden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, same with on iPhone. I mean, you install it, you use it. That's the way that it works. I don't have I don't let it get in between me and web pages. I still have to do the copy paste thing if I need to do that. But I prefer to do that because I wear a tinfoil hat.
1Password has no trackers. KeePass has no trackers, but 1Password has 7 other ways that they can monitor your usage that are not trackers. So, whereas Bitwarden only has 2 or 3 of those.
Right.
I'm not remembering the term for that. Sorry.
Just an interesting. I think this is the 1-2 punch that LastPass needed to just lose all the people that use them for free. I mean, you're getting a worse experience as a free user of LastPass, and this has been exposed here lately that they're tracking you, obviously. And if you needed any kind of push to go to a different password manager, this is it. The Bitwarden is good, but then all the self-hosted ones are also fantastic as well. Bitwarden does provide you a way to move all of your things in LastPass to Bitwarden. So
the word I was looking for is permissions.
Oh, okay.
LastPass has 7 trackers and 36 permissions.
Wow, that's a lot. And that's just on Android. So
Bitwarden has 2 trackers and 5 permissions.
Right. And so to put this into context, this is just the Android app. So if you use it on Android, this is what we're really talking about. But I mean, the fact that we talk about LastPass and password management and Bitwarden and all these things in general, it really does make a good talking point for us to talk about in the security update. Because wow, that it's just wow. I don't know what else to say other than wow. It did not ever strike me that LastPass would be doing something like that, and they're the biggest one. So maybe just at least consider moving to something else. Any other comments on LastPass?
Don't
pass it on. Bye.
Yeah. This is my last pass for LastPass. I'm out. All right. Well, then let's move into Linux innards. We're not making horrible time on this show. So in this section, we wanted to talk about compression, what that means to us, what we use it for. I know Josh and I have been banging our heads against all of this stuff in general to just, figure out some ways to do compression in general and figure it all out. But just kind of wanted to go through all of us and take our temperature on compression in general. So, Joe, what do you use compression for?
Well, not much really. I mean, I do use compression, but not for like files and things. I will use compression over SSH. And that's about it. But I did do some file compression just for testing purposes to bring onto the show.
Okay, well, hold on. But before you get onto that, then now I'm curious. What do you do SSH-wise for compression?
Well, when you're using SSHFS, it's actually really helpful to use tax capital C at the end in order for there to be compression so you don't get latency when you're doing things like watching videos.
So one of the things though that I think is happening, that if you're deciding to use compression in general, that most people may not know, is that it's very CPU intensive to do that. So normally you would just be sending the file or the media stream or whatever it is over SSHFS, which is already CPU intensive because you're encrypting it, and then you're adding on a little bit, for benefit, right? I mean, you get better latency on that. But you're also asking your CPU, hey, so encrypt it, but also compress it. So basically take out all the redundant information in that stream and send it. And then on the other end, you have to piece it all back together. So same with encryption over there. So it is a CPU intensive thing, but the benefit usually outweighs the extra 1 degree Celsius that your CPU sits at.
And it's the same thing with X11 forwarding.
Right.
So if I'm forwarding an application from my server to my laptop, then it's good to have compression there just for the vagaries of the connection.
Yeah,
and
very good point.
You're adding more overhead for the CPU, but you're limiting the overhead for your network connection.
Exactly. And for those that don't know, X11 forwarding is basically, say you have two computers, you're on one computer, the other one is 7 miles away, and you want to launch Firefox on that machine 7 miles away. X11 forwarding will allow you to launch Firefox, and you see it on the computer right in front of you, but yet Firefox is running on that machine way over there. So if you download something, it would download to that machine in 7 miles away, not to your local machine. So this is just a way to get a GUI essentially on a remote machine.
Yeah, but when it came to compression of files locally, I did attempt to compress my home drive. Even with elevated privileges, I still was running into permission problems as root, so I don't know what the issue was there. But could not get a compressed version of my home folder to do a comparison between the two. So I went down to the command line and did a tar-gz on my downloads folder, which was at the time sitting at like 58.8 gig, and it ended up at like 55 gigabytes, the compressed version. So all in all, 3.8 gigs worth of savings. So I don't really see how useful that would be. But that's just me.
Well, I think for archival purposes, right? I mean, you just want a copy of that just in case you delete a file or something like that. You can tar-gz it into a little file and then stick it on an external drive to,
and then
pick at it one day if you need.
Yeah, then you only have to move one file instead of, an entire file table.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Right, and it depends too on what compression setting you used for tar-gz, because there's 1 through 9. So if you use 9, it's the most compressed, and 1 is the least. So I don't know what the default is.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay, well, Tony?
Yeah, well, a bit like Joe, I did a test. I don't regularly compress files, but the main thing I'll use it for is if I'm sending multiple files to over email, and then it's easier to gather them all into a folder, compress them, and then stick them on an email. but that's about the main thing I use it for. Going down the other way, if I'm downloading photos off Google Photos, if you download more than one, that automatically puts them into a zip folder that you have to uncompress once they've downloaded, but that's a different story. But anyway, I used the GUI to run tar.gz on my desktop folder, which was 40.3 gig. And a bit like Joe, I stuck it on one of my 4 terabyte drives that have got a couple of terabytes free. So I haven't exactly got a space issue at the moment. So this was just a test. But I did a little bit better than Joe. It compressed it down to 33.3 gig. So it's a saving of around 7 gigs. So I think it depends on what the files you've got in the folder and how compressed they were already, or whether they're in a compressible format. Because I know video and some photo formats, they're already so compressed, you're not going to get much difference when you run compression software on them. But I was interested to note that the 7 gig I saved was actually bigger than the hard drive I had on my first proper Windows PC back in 1998. I had a 6 gig hard drive in that, so 7 gig was larger than that. And 6 gig back in the day was a useful amount of storage. Not now. But yeah, that was my experience. I probably won't use it because, like I say, I've got a couple of 4 terabyte backup drives that I use, and so space isn't a major issue. The one thing that was just said about bringing everything together in one folder can be useful when you're zipping things, but that's about it. Moss, what about you?
Well, I keep most of my files that most people keep in home on an external drive, so there wasn't much in my home folder to compress. In fact, my home folder was only 1.5 gigabytes. Running compression, the resulting files were each 1.7 gigabytes. I ran both tar.gz and tar.7z for comparison with no difference. I gained 200,000 bytes by compressing it. Maybe I should check compression on my external, but I'm not sure I have room anywhere for a file that would hold all that.
Yeah, that's one that really baffled me. There's got to be something going on in the background, because I've never ever seen something compress but yet get bigger. So,
well, I had that happen a lot in the Windows days. The smaller files don't compress or actually uncompress.
Right, but then you have to give them a wrapper that is specifically for the compression software. So if it's an uncompressible file, it's going to be larger.
That's just crazy to me. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that with text files that are less than a kilobyte or something like that. Maybe the compression to mark a file. Way that
it's like
7-zip
Joe
or whatever.
said. It's like Joe said, Leo. If a file is not compressible, they will not compress it and then put a wrapper around it to say it's been compressed, and so the wrapper makes it larger.
Huh. Interesting. All right.
Now, my SDB, my external main drive, is 512 gig with only 145 gig free, so I'm not sure I want to try compression on that because there's not much room. Josh, how did you do?
Well, I didn't really get to test a lot on my new system, so most of this stuff is from my Ryzen 5 2600, but most of my tests, well, all of my tests were on my .image backups of my NVMe drive that has Windows on it, and that has about 506 gigabytes of data. I used part clone and DD to get the image, and then I used PigZ to compress it. I tried both 7Z and gzip, and both of those took way too long to compress, so I didn't even bother. They were over 5 hours to compress that file. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna, or the image. So I said, I'm not gonna worry about it because no one's gonna do that. I mean, that's ridiculous. So anyway, out of my tests, I actually also used RescueZilla as another form of backing up, and that won the speed for the compression and backing up everything. That was about 55 minutes for the 506 gigabytes, and the compressed size was the same as using part clone plus PigZ, which is basically what RescueZilla uses under the hood to do all of its imaging. And the final file size was 383 gigs. So that's quite a bit of savings. There's a lot of text files and stuff in Windows and all that stuff. And I had several games installed, and that has a lot of text files. So that all can be compressed fairly easily. And I'm not sure exactly what the commands are that RescueZilla uses, but it must use some options to make it a little faster because, like I said, part clone plus PigZ is what I used in Linux itself, and it got a little bit less, a little more time on it. When I used that, I got 57 minutes instead of 55, so it's negligible, really. It's only a couple minutes, so. But the compressed size was exactly the same for both RescueZilla and part clone plus PigZ. And the command I used was partclone.ntfs tac-c tac-s dev nvme, whatever your drive is, and then piped it through PigZ tac9, and then you put in your the directory for the image file. That's what I used for part clone, and then with DD plus PigZ, that came in third, and that was 1 hour and 38 minutes. Now, I don't know why DD versus part clone was so much different in the time, because I was still using PigZ, so that shouldn't have mattered as far as that goes. So it had to be DD that was making it longer
Oh yeah,
for the time.
The reason is part clone does not write zeros. It does not write empty space, but DD does.
Okay.
Because DD is, I mean, it's quite dumb. It does exactly what you tell it to do. You tell it to image a section of the disk
Right.
or the entire disk or whatever, and it's like, all right, 10100000. Like part clone would just
Right.
it would skip the 1,000 zeros.
Mhm.
DD will write every single one of them.
Right. Okay, I gotcha. And yeah, part clone. Yeah. Also, you do the .ntfs or whatever file system you use, so maybe that also helps. Well, it knows what file system it's trying to image. So, yeah, I can definitely see where that would be a problem. So yeah, the compression size was a little larger as well with DD plus PigZ, which was 387 gigabytes. So again, negligible, not that big of a difference, but still, if you want to save a little bit, then that will help a little bit to use RescueZilla or part clone. So, oh yes, and the command I used for DD would be DD if equals your drive, dev, nvme, whatever. Then I piped it through PV to see what the progress was, and then I piped that through PigZ tac9, and then the image that it's gonna spit out. Yeah. So, yeah, as I said, the 7Z took too long to really do anything, and I'm not exactly sure why, because when I did that with 7Z, where I did part clone plus 7Z, it would only use one thread. So 7Z is supposed to be multi-threaded, and I confirmed that when I actually tried to compress a folder that I had on my external hard drive, and that seemed to use all the cores, and it didn't take very long at all. It was like a 30 gigabyte file, and it took maybe like 2 minutes or whatever. I don't know exactly. It wasn't that long. So I'm assuming that 7Z would have been close to PigZ plus part clone a little bit, I would imagine. So yeah, and as far as gzip, yeah, I wouldn't even use that for anything that's larger than maybe like 10 gigs. It would take probably too long, personally, for me. So Yeah, that was pretty much everything I did. I mainly focused on my backups rather than the exact compression. But I like to compress my backups because why have a 500 gig file when you could have a 380 some gig file? That's quite a bit of savings, especially when you're doing this.
Your fifth backup is free, right? You buy 4 backups,
Yeah.
you get the fifth free when you use compression.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Yeah, especially when I keep a monthly of these, I keep at least 2, and then the third one I'll get rid of as after I make the third backup. So yeah, it does save me quite a bit on my storage. But anyway, yeah. So I guess Leo, it's your turn. Well, how did you fare?
Well, I will say that on the RescueZilla thing, I just could not believe how fast it was. That was the biggest thing for me. My system was not nearly as big. This is when I was on Linux User Space. We were doing KDE Neon. That was about the time that we were talking about doing a show like this. And so I think it was about a 16 gig install with all my software and a couple of recordings on it. So it wasn't a whole lot, but RescueZilla was able to do that in, Josh, what did I tell you? It was like 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it was closer to 5. It was really fast.
It was insane how fast that was. So it was able to take an entire copy of my partition. It was able to compress it down. I think it saved me about 2.5 gigs. It was 15 and change, and then it was like 13.2 gigs after everything. So I mean, what is that, like a 15% reduction in size? I mean, and that's give or take. What you saw with 500 gigs to 383 gigs. I mean, it's a lot of savings that you get, and the fact that RescueZilla does it out of the box, they use, as you mentioned, Part Clone and PigZ. It's great. I mean, by default, those are the ones that I would recommend anybody use. So just go use gzip because everybody knows what gzip is. It exists in every Linux ever. But yeah, just the fact that RescueZilla was able to do that and how fast it is, it's absolutely amazing. So I went a little lower level with my stuff. Really just, I wanted to get my home folder, or, the important bits of any particular system, which is typically your home folder, and talk about how long it takes to get yourself a backup. So yesterday I wanted to bring to the show a script, but I ran out of time. So sometime in the future, I'll be hacking away at this little by little. I want a script to basically just hand out to anybody and be like, hey, we talk about having backups all the time. Back up your stuff. Well, how do you back up your stuff? If you're doing it in the command line, it's actually kind of archaic. So I can understand why people don't do it. And a lot of times people don't realize that there are backup utilities on your machine to do that kind of thing. And I know it exists. A tool to back up your home folder is not new, but I just want to write a script for it. And make it interactive, right? Like, what kind of compression do you want? Do you want to add any additional folders, things like that? So, but I did go through all of the manual stuff to make that work. So these are the bits that I will use in the script later. So the first thing that I wanted was a way to actually monitor it, because when you do compression, you want to compress 12 folders, or you want to compress an entire folder that has a bunch of stuff in it. You press enter, and nothing happens. And so you sat there wondering, I wonder if it's working. I wonder. And then, 30 minutes later, after your compression is done, it's like, done. And you're like, thanks. I had no idea when that was going to be done. I had no idea what you were doing. So there is a little program in most Linuxes called Progress. I think, Josh, this is the same base as what you were using with PV.
Yeah, PV. Right, yeah. The thing with PV is it only looks at the file that's coming out of the thing. It doesn't look at any of the compression that's going on. Like, it doesn't give you any of those stats. It'll just look at the file that's being exported out.
Right. So Progress is not smart, but what it will do is it will tell you the file that's being compressed right now. So, if that's a 20 meg file or whatever, it'll count up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 20 and tell you, all right, 90% done, 100% done for that file. But if you're doing 100 files, you don't get an overall progress. You essentially just get a running tally of how big your compressed file, the file that you're going to end up with, how big that's going to be at the end. So yeah, it's not one nice, cool, gooey little thing that goes across and tells you exactly when it's going to be done. But it does give you an idea of what's happening, and that it's still working. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Just don't tell me nothing, because otherwise I'm going to think it's broken and I'm going to cancel it. So, so progress is important. I show you how to install it and how to run it. So progress basically just looks into your system for anything that's currently running that uses something like tar or 7Z or anything like that. So it will just monitor your system, and if something is running, then it will give you those stats. It'll tell you how it's going. So that is important if you're doing these backups, and that's something that I want to integrate into the script once I get there. So what I was doing was compressing a home folder that's about 1.2 gigs. I went in and specifically got rid of like all of my ISOs out of my downloads folder, because this is, that would have made everything way, way bigger. And I don't know that compressing ISOs is anything that anybody cares about anyway. So my home folder contains all the normal junk, right? All the stuff that you get in your cache whenever you're surfing on 4 different browsers. It's all the stuff that you downloaded in your downloads folder. It's all the pictures off your phone in your pictures folder, and everything else that ends up in videos and desktop and all that other stuff too, right? So it's a mishmash of all kinds of files, but there's a lot of pictures. Like more than half of this is actually pictures. So I expected really big compression ratios, but I was not pleasantly surprised to realize that it wasn't that great. So, I mean, that makes sense because all the pictures are JPEG anyway. So they're already compressed. So, I was silly going into it, not realizing that those are compressed in the first place. So anyway, I did XZ, GZ, BZ2, and 7-zip. These are the most common compressions that I have seen around the internet. I had the highest hopes for XZ because most everything that, the new hotness is XZ. Everybody's starting to put their stuff in XZ because it has, at least reportedly, the highest compression ratios of all of the compressions. And that actually turned out to be pretty true. So I've got the command that I ran. You can actually use it directly in tar. So when you see those big scary tar commands, it's like CZ, XJ, elemental P, those, that's this. But here's the cool thing. I've got a example command in there to where all you do is change the path to where you want the file to go, and that's it. You press enter on it, and it will create you a backup of your home directory. And I think that's really cool. So you can take that and adjust that. But eventually, like I said, I want to make this into a script. So it was done in about 5 minutes. This was the most depressing part about this, is that XZ is slow. It was 5 times slower than GZ. It was 2 times slower than BZ2. It was 6 times slower than 7-zip, and it was I got to do the math here. 10 times slower than PigZ. So yeah, if speed is number 1 in your mind, XZ ain't it, man. It ain't it. But it did give me the second best compression ratio out of all of them. So I had a 1.2 gig home folder, and that came down to about 1.1 gigs. They all came out to about 1.1 gigs, so much so that I couldn't tell you 1.1 gigs, 1.0 gigs, 0.9 gigs. No. I had to break it down to the bytes, so you can see the difference between each of the compressions. So it was a pretty close call with this. So, I mean, it's really if you're on the cusp of, I really need the extra space savings. All right, cool, go with XZ. But, honestly, my thing is going to be, just use GZ. So with GZ, I did the same thing. It was done in 1 minute. This was one of the fastest ones that I did, but it came out with actually the worst compression of all of them. So yeah, I wasn't happy about that. GZ is the most pervasive out of all of them. So yeah, I wasn't extremely happy with that, but I mean, it was in the same ballpark as everybody else, so it wasn't that bad. BZ2, I've got the command for that, and it was done in about 2.5 minutes. So it took a little longer than GZ did, but it gave you a slightly better compression than GZ did as well. So another one of those things, right, where it was the trade-off for getting a smaller file is that it takes longer to do. And then 7-zip. I've used 7-zip from back in the Windows days as well. And I really enjoy 7-zip overall. It's a really good compression. and it's really easy to handle. The command is way easier than using tar in general. I've got an example of that in there. And outside of using the multi-core one, I think the way that I used 7-zip was not multi-core in this way. It was done in 45 seconds. So it was single core, not multi-threaded types. 7-zip was the fastest, and it gave you the best compression. So this is, again, it reminded me why I like 7-zip so much. Best compression, best time, easiest command, hands down, it's my favorite. My absolute favorite of all of them. So, I think overall the idea is that, it doesn't matter which one you use. They're all about the same as far as what compression you're going to get out the other end, how much it's going to compress. They all compressed about 10% for me, which is still a good chunk of change, right? I mean, in the case of Josh, it was buy 4, get 1 free. In my case, it's buy 9, get 1 free. But that's kind of the idea. So Josh and I were playing around with pigs back when I was talking about that the RescueZilla stuff. And so I wanted to see what I'm already doing. I want that to be faster. How do I make that work? So tar does not have Pig Z like baked in. There's no little single letter switch to turn it on and use that kind of compression. You have to actually use the --use-compress-program to call Pig Z, and then you can give it arguments there. And the arguments I gave were best compression, so --best, and recursive. So, don't forget to go inside the folders too. So from there, the rest of the command is the same as all the other ones. But this went from, this cut the compression time in half. So I was able to get a GZ archive out in 30 seconds compared to 1 minute with the regular GZ. But what was even weirder was that by using the best compression ratio, I ended up with a bigger file than just going straight tar GZ. That was weird. I don't know why. It's not a big difference. It was about a difference of 1 megabyte. So I don't think, unless you go down and actually care, you wouldn't have noticed. But, I'm caring, so I did notice. That was weird. But overall, Pigs was the fastest of them all. It even beat 7-zip. But I think I need to go back and ask 7-zip to be multi-threaded, and then I need to do a head-to-head against Pig Z versus 7Z to see which one comes out on top. But overall, I'm sold on GZip. I mean, yeah, you get a slightly worse compression ratio, but I mean, it's the fastest that you can get outside of 7-zip. And 7-zip isn't native. So GZip being native, being one of the fastest, still giving you a really good compression ratio. It's the worst, but I mean, it's still really good. And that I think really sells me on it. There'll always be a soft spot in my heart for 7-zip, but yeah, Pigs is great. I can't really find much wrong with it.
Yeah, most people don't want to sit around waiting for 2 hours for their compression to happen.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, 7-zip and Pigs actually works the best on that one. But Pigs was the hardest to put together in a command to do what all the other ones did, essentially natively. So that was the only thing I didn't like about Pigs, was that it's more difficult to use than anything else.
Well, with Pig Z, it's actually not that hard. If I see you use tar and all that, but you don't even have to use tar. You can just use Pig Z. Yeah, you can just use Pig Z. The same commands you can use to use gzip. If you use Pig Z and then you point it to, well, you put, like, if you want the most compression and everything first, then point it to the file you want it to compress, or the folder, and then space, and then point it to the file that you're going to kick out of it, and that's it.
Well, that works for, and so gzip works that way as well. But yeah, and you could do that to a single file. The problem is when you encounter a directory.
Oh, right.
That's why you need tar in that. You need tar to put it into a nice one file, and then Pigs will go and compress that.
Right. Now I see what you're doing. See, I didn't have to do that because I was already doing DD, and okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was curious to see why you did that, but now I know. All right.
Yep, that's the deal. So yeah, just a little bit more difficult. But I mean, if you're curious to use Pig Z, I've got the command in here that I use to create it. So you could really just copy and paste, and then at the very end change where I saved my file, change it to wherever you want to save your file, and then everything else is just it's easy from there. I didn't run into any of the permissions issues. Don't that only has to do with ownership. I don't know who owns files in your home directory, but yeah, that's what those are stemming from. Anyway, long live gzip. What can I say? It's fantastic. But from here, that'll do it for our compression chat. If you're curious, if you're trying to compress stuff, you have questions or anything like that, feel free to just write in, let us know, and we can help you compress and archive and do all that kind of fun stuff to your stuff too. Anyway, we'll head down to vibrations from the ether. All right. We got an email from Lee. Who wants to handle this one?
I'll read it to celebrate my new stable Wi-Fi connection that I have.
Yay!
All right, so Lee says, "Hi, mintCast guys. I was listening to one of your podcasts and you were talking about the browser you currently use. I was a bit surprised no one mentioned LibreWolf as an option. LibreWolf is a fork of Firefox, and I have found it to be much more secure out of the box. You don't have to change a laundry list of options in About Config to get a very secure browsing experience. It is all set for you. You can get LibreWolf from LibreWolf-community.gitlab.io. I use the app image on Linux Mint in Debian 10 XFCE, and it works great. You might want to give it a spin and mention it on your show. While I also use Brave and love it, I think having two browsers built off of differing browser engines is a smart move. Thanks for all the hard work in outing together an informative and entertaining show. Lee." Well, I've never actually heard of LibreWolf before, but I do agree with Lee that having two different browsers built off of differing browser engines is a smart idea. Do that with Firefox and Brave currently, but how about you guys? Have you ever heard of or tried out LibreWolf yet?
While you were reading that, I downloaded the app image and set it to executable and ran it. Now, I don't know if it must. It has uBlock Origin out of the box. That's
Wow,
nice.
really?
Yeah, but I mean, everything else just feels like Firefox. Yeah.
There's also a Flatpak.
Oh, cool. So yeah, and actually that's better than the app image unless you have unless it tries to self-update and it'll grab the app image itself. Yeah, the Flatpak may be the better way to do that. So yeah, just check in Software Manager in Linux Mint to try it out. The one concern that I would have is if LibreWolf stays as up to date, or how long does it take when Firefox puts out an update? How long does it take for LibreWolf to come out with that? And the answer to that question
I have
is,
a question on that too, Leo, because it says it's compiled directly from the latest build of Firefox Stable. Now, is that just regular Firefox or is that ESR?
It's regular Firefox. So I'm on it now.
Okay.
It's 86. So, and that goes to my point. 86 was released just a couple of days ago. Let me see. Yeah, created 1 week. Let me find out. I have to actually find out. This is an interesting question. Let me see. So Firefox 86, what day was that released? That looks to be released February 23rd. So it looks like it takes the folks at LibreWolf about a week to put out theirs, because it looks like 86.0-1 was created 1 week ago, February 27th. So 7654. That's 4 days. Takes them 4 days to put out a new version. So that's really my only concern with these, is that you're stuck 4 days without the updates, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, unless it is security stuff that still makes it into LibreWolf. So I mean, you're stuck 4 extra days with those bugs. That's assuming you upgrade Firefox the moment they come out. And I tend to, if I see a Firefox update, I'm accepting that because I usually like to see the new features and stuff. But I mean, overall, yeah. So, oh yeah, sure enough. No telemetry, defaults to DuckDuckGo, ad block is included. There's a firewall extension. So we've seen that the updates take about 4 days extra. And everything is, obviously everything is open source, right? I mean, Firefox is open source except for like Pocket and some of the other stuff that they add, LibreWolf strips all that out. So if you're one of those Firefox haters that's like, I don't like Pocket, I can't believe they did Pocket. LibreWolf doesn't add Pocket, so that might be something that you're interested in. Really cool overall. So thanks for writing in, Lee. It's a good project. I'm going to keep my eye on it. It is nice. You don't get Firefox Sync or any of the Firefoxy stuff like that. So I mean, think of it like Firefox but raw, and has uBlock Origin and a firewall built in. So that's really cool. So I appreciate that, Lee. Thanks.
Are you able to access about config through LibreWolf?
Ooh, I closed it. Let me open it back up, and I will. What do you want me to look for?
Just to see if they have like kind of the new stuff that Firefox has added in terms of security, like first-party isolate, things of that nature. Just want to see how they have it set by default.
Let me see. Tell me where to go, and I will go there.
If you if you just do the about config and then start searching for first-party isolate. Yeah.
First, is that all one word? Party.
Yep, first-party isolates all together, and it should, if it's in there, it should give you a listing.
Okay, privacy.firstparty.isolate is set to false.
Okay.
Privacy block post message is false, but restrict opener access is true, and use site is false.
Okay, so that's kind of cool though. So you can still at least access about config and make changes in there the same way you would with Firefox.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Interesting.
The Flatpak is not on FlatHub, so it's a little bit harder to install.
So you've got to go add another Flatpak repo.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. I'm working on it right now.
Let me see. Installation. So let me see if I can find Flatpak. Set up Flatpak. Download the Flatpak. Oh, you just have to. Oh, okay. No, it handles it, I think. Yeah, you just download the Flatpak. Let's save this and see what happens. What happens if I just click on it? Flatpak. Oh, no. I don't know if that's a. Oh, Flatpak doesn't. Maybe I've broken it. Isn't Flatpak supposed to just run? Maybe not.
When you do what?
When you double click on it.
Oh, yeah, it should.
Yeah, maybe if I run it with the software manager. Let me try that. Does that do it? Anything happening? Oh, wait. Okay, no, I think software manager choked on it. I might have to do it manually. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, okay. So we'll come back to this one. This is interesting, at least. At the very least, it's interesting.
Yeah, I've got it downloaded. I'm going to play with it some too. But
cool.
Yep.
All right.
Shall we move along?
We shall. So
I'll take this one.
Oh, go ahead.
Why not? I mean, everyone else is talking. Give me a chance. Sid32 on 355.5 on Reddit says, AirDroid is an outdated app. The cool kids are using Join by Joao to send commands to Tasker to open an FTP server on the phone.
That's pretty cool. So I think this is in response to one of the things that I said the other day, which was I had an old Samsung Note 3 that I use AirDroid on to transfer files between here, a machine and there. It's got a web interface, so that is pretty interesting. I hadn't looked into this, but this is interesting. So, but it sounds more like a server-y style thing. So join by Tasker and join.
It sounds like a Brazilian thing. There aren't too many countries that use Joao as a name.
Yeah, so this is interesting. This is something I'll have to dive into, but I haven't messed with yet. So I do have, I still have a Nexus 7 kicking around that I need to move some files from, and I don't have AirDroid on it. I guess AirDroid may be defunct. So I'll try to start moving files around with Join. Thanks, Sid.
Let me grab Captain Obvious and leave John Wallace for you.
All right.
Captain Obvious 110 on 354.5 on Reddit. Bunsen Labs or Puppy Linux for low-spec machines.
And this, Moss, was actually in response to you, because this is the one where you were, the episode, Everyone's Got an Opinion, where you were talking about how you deal with distros and stuff.
Well,
So
I
I
love
think
me
this is-
some Puppy.
Yeah.
I probably mentioned Fossa Pup at one point or another, and I've been playing with EasyOS too, which is another Puppy from the creator of Puppy, Barry Cowler. So,
Very cool. So make sure to add those to your list if you're browsing.
and now drum roll, please.
Oh, the John Wallace saga again.
Dum dum dum.
So John Wallace writes in. He says, "Hello, Leo. I have a question regarding masking services that I need to use, but which Linus flags as unsafe, such as USB Guard. Would I be able to mask those services without impairing their functionality? For example, syscontrol mask USB Guard." No. So to answer that question directly, if you mask a service, it is off forever and cannot be turned on. So if you are expecting anything to run as part of that service, it will not. That service will not run anymore after you mask it. So what you can do, we're going to talk about one a little later, but any service that is called by dbus will automatically turn on as long as it's not masked. So what you might want to do is system control disable USB Guard, and if dbus will call that, then it will start whenever it needs to, as opposed to starting on boot. So maybe that can help a little bit, but yeah, to your question, nope. If you mask it, it's off and off, like off. But further, specifically for USB Guard, it does what it says it does. It's basically a whitelist for USB Guard, for USB components. You basically plug in the ones that you want, add them to the whitelist. Everything else that you plug in after that fact will not work. dbus will basically just ignore it. So I've got a link to a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 how to kind of explaining what all USB Guard is and how to configure it and do all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you're not going to configure USB Guard, just turn it off. Mask it. You can mask it and it'll be okay. But if you do want to increase the security of your machine, and by running Linus, it sounds like you do, it might not be a bad idea to actually just configure USB Guard and let it run. So that was one email. He sent another in, the usual 5 services to inquire about. And it sounds like we're just going alphabetical. So he says, here's the next batch from Linus Scan, and I would appreciate your advice. So we've got 5. We've got accounts-daemon, account, ACCT, ACPID.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
State. It was daemon. Daemon is what I said.
Daemon. Did you say that right?
I did. Absolutely.
Daemon.
No, day is when the sun is up. Daemon is for the service that runs on your Linux machine.
Well, you're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, of course. I'm always wrong. And then lastly was Anacron. So in each intern, so accounts.daemon, it can be safely be disabled, not masked, because dbus will start it back up when it's needed. So if you're running into the situation where like system deanalyze blame says accounts daemon is taking forever to start up, it's usually not accounts daemon, but you can stop it from starting on startup by just disabling it. So system control disable accounts-daemon, and that'll disable it on startup, but dbus will usually kick it back on. Now, when would it kick it back on? It's anytime a graphical app that handles user accounts is invoked. That's where accounts-daemon comes into play. So if you go into Linux Mint and you type in, users or something? Yeah, users and groups. The moment you do that and you authenticate, accounts-daemon is invoked and you're using it. So, to add an account or something like that, that's where accounts-daemon really comes in handy. So if you want to mask this, it's going to break your graphical user account thing configurator apps. Anything that does user control apps in the graphical user interface, those will break. Doing user add and add user and all that stuff, that won't break. Those bypass this accounts-daemon. So if you're never going to create another user account on your system, or change your current one with the GUI apps, you're fine to mask this one. But in general, most people do it in the GUI, so maybe it might not be a good idea to mask that. So it's really personal preference on that. ACCT.service. You can safely disable this one, and looks like you can mask it as well without really breaking anything visible. ACCT really handles sessions and what you've done in that session. So it's more like a tracking thing where it tracks when you logged in, how long you stayed logged in, what commands you did during that login. And this is pretty obvious why Linus would kick off and be like, hey, this is not secure, because ACCT actually tracks everybody on the system. So getting a hold of information like that is very bad in terms of privacy and security. So it's no wonder Linus says, hey, go turn this off. But you can mask this without breaking anything. It's fine. But don't expect to go ask ACCT for information about sessions. It's off, so it's not gonna do anything. ACPID. This one you need to understand it before disabling it. It handles hardware actions. So yeah, usually you just don't want to mess with this one at all. If you plug in headphones, unplug in headphones, plug in any kind of hardware control, right? Like your keyboard hardware controls, your laptop brightness controls, all that stuff. If you disable ACPID, it's no longer listening for those hardware calls, and it will just ignore them. So all of your keys are broken now. You can turn it back on or unmask it, and it'll be fine. Yeah, no, Moss, don't change my spelling. It is demon, and no matter how many times you change it, no matter how many times you tell me, it's demon, and on top of that, it's GIF. So yeah. So also state is the next one, and this is another one that you need to understand before disabling, because this demon will monitor the state and settings of your sound card. So in my case, I've got like 3, not because I want them, but because they keep getting built into crap. My Logitech webcam has a microphone, and my Focusrite Scarlett Solo has microphone in and audio out. My my little Think Center here has 2 audio ins and 1 microphone out. So it's crazy. If ALSA-state was not running, it would forget where my volume was. It would forget the state of the controllers as if like if I muted them or unmuted them or whatever. So if you don't do anything with audio, you know, you could probably safely disable this one and mask it as well. But if you mask it, ALSA is going to start you from a blank slate every single time. So I would be wary of this one. This is one of those kind of A/B tests. Can you get by without it? You should be okay. It won't like break anything that I know of, but it's going to make your life a little worse off if you deal with anything audio ever. And then the last one is Anacron.service. I love Anacron. Anacron is my kind of cron. So cron is a service that does things when you tell it to do things, right? So like at 4 o'clock, I want it to do this backup, and I want it to do this and write this and go here and do that, right? And you tell it specifically when you want it to launch, like down to the minute you tell it when you want it to launch. Anacron is my kind of cron. It's like, just whenever, like after a reboot, just whenever. You can do it whenever. So I like Anacron because it really waits until the system is not being used, and then it will kick off its update, or then it will kick off its backup process, or whatever that is. I personally like Anacron. I use Anacron when I need things. You know, think about it like you want your temporary files to be emptied out after boot, but you don't want that to happen right after boot because your hard drive is being used to boot the system up and load all your software and stuff like that. So if I tell Anacron to, after a reboot, maybe like half an hour or whatever, then run that thing. But you don't tell it, you know, exactly 30 minutes after boot you do this. No. Anacron waits for the system to be idle before it kicks off. So it could be 30 minutes. It could be 40 minutes. It could be an hour. And that's all fine for me because, you know, all I'm doing is like emptying out TMP or something like that. I don't put anything extremely important in Anacron, but I like the laziness of it. So it's important. That service is important to me. I would never mask it. But if you don't use it, and by default, I don't think a lot of things exist there, you can mask it. And if things break, bring it back. But yeah, Anacron is safe to mask. I just wouldn't do it myself. All right. Well, that's it for the John Wallace saga. I hope that answered your questions, John. I hope anybody listening to this did not fall asleep, and if you did stay awake through it, I hope it kind of shone some light on some of the services that are running in the back of your machine that you may not know are there, and well, they are. So yeah, hopefully that was informative. So Joe, take the next one.
All right. Mike F sent me an email. Hello, Joe. Always enjoy your descriptions of dabbling with the hardware. One of these days, I'll have to dig out my soldering iron and see if it works. The recent Texas hard freeze prompted the curiosity of myself and a friend considering a move. We were wondering what level of energy-saving construction is customary or typically found. Insulation in exterior walls and attic, double-pane windows. I was surprised to see all of the burst pipes in interior ceilings, not garages, as this is usually the warmest part of the house. By contrast, I was not surprised to see the great state of denial when watching the DFW area stations. Having been there many times on business, I was first amused, then annoyed at the perpetual demolition derby seen on the iced-up overpasses. Thanks, TXDOT. Hopefully, your legislature will finally enact minimum standards for power generation and transmission operators on the grid. Texas deserves something above Wally Mart quality electric and nat gas service. Good luck, Mike. And yeah, the roads are nuts here, even when they're not icy. So, I did reply, yeah, I do love me some hardware. Always good to know that other people like hearing about my tinkering. Thank you. I have a couple of headsets that I'm currently working on, but nothing too interesting. Still need to mod that arcade. As for the typical energy saving around here, double pane is very common, but it seems like the seals don't last very long at all. You can pay the extra for better insulation on the house's outer walls, but I have yet to see an attic that has insulation on the outside wall. A lot of my issues seem to be the windows and the seals around the doors. I'm going to be looking into the doors this summer. People drive like that all the time. It was rather disturbing when I first moved here, but I kind of got used to it and expect everyone to drive like 5-year-olds in bumper cars. Still terrifying that they don't adjust the driving to the conditions though. So despite the fact that I can drive reasonably well on snow and ice, I simply don't leave the house because derp is out there. I am not sure that the legislature will do anything. The last time this happened, the answer was, it doesn't happen very often, and by the time it does happen, it will be someone else's problem. Thanks for writing in. Let me know if you spin up any projects.
I will say, yeah, don't count on anything changing overall. And yeah, double pane is pretty common. I've got some double pane windows in my house, but the people that owned it before me didn't finish. So so we're looking at replacing. I think it's about I don't know. It's about 8 windows in my house that I still need to go double pane with, and that would help out a lot. The other thing is, depending on when your house was built, you may or may not have insulation on the outer walls of your house. But it's not too terribly difficult to do some blow-in after the fact. But
I thought
still,
that was mandatory, the insulation on the outer walls, because I do have insulation on my outer walls. This house is from roughly 18, 19 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, I mean, certainly houses exist that are 100 years old.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the older they get, the less regulation there was. And yeah, I mean, and if nobody cared enough to come in and actually fix that, then, I mean, you just don't have it. So the best you can do is blow in after the fact, which, I mean, it does do pretty good. And I will say the insulation at the on your roof, right, on the inside of your roof is very uncommon here because houses get hot fast in the summer, and there needs to be some kind of way to let some of that heat out. Otherwise, you're really fighting it with your HVAC unit.
Well,
but it's kind of a half in, half out situation.
Most roofs, they do have some kind of insulation at the top. A lot of them in other places, not here, of course. But then at where the roof meets the rest of the house, there's supposed to be a gap to allow for expansion and contraction.
Right.
And that would be where the heat is supposed to escape during the summer when it's beating down on the house.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I've got it. I don't have much on the outer, but I do have it on the ceiling right above the ceiling, essentially, to keep the rooms at a decent temperature. But yeah, to let it escape on the outside. But yeah, it's another one of those things. Just an old house, so things that need to be fixed.
But yeah, the driving here, and I know Leo, you've probably driven through the Dallas area before.
Oh my god!
Even when the weather's good, these people are insane.
No, if the posted speed limit is 75, just add 20 to that, and that's what the speed limit actually is. Don't worry about the cops; they're doing 95 too.
No,
and
if you're doing the speed limit and nobody else is, that makes you a danger on the road, and you will be the one to get the ticket.
Yeah, exactly. So 95 is, 95 is not out of the ordinary on a typical 3, 4, 5 lane highway. So yeah, just if you're coming to Texas, be aware of that. Stay out of the left lane. People will hate you otherwise. If you're doing the speed limit, you better be in the slow lane.
It's insane. You literally drive 95 miles an hour on the highway there?
I don't.
I don't. I don't get in the left lane, but there are plenty of people that do, and it is extremely common. Yes.
And then cut across 5 lanes of traffic to get to the exit that they almost missed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, see, this is where it confuses me, because when I go to Jersey, the people drive like that. They drive like 95.
Look,
but in your area, you said the cops drive just that fast. But in Jersey, the cops will freaking pull them over all the time, but they still drive 95. So I don't understand that whole thing.
I don't know.
I have been a passenger in vehicles in Kunsan in South Korea, and I was like 18 at the time, and I had to close my eyes to actually sit in that cab to go like 2 towns over because of how crazy our driver was and how crazy all the other drivers were.
Oh man.
I've driven a car in third world country. I've driven a military Jeep in third world countries where I absolutely did not care if my vehicle got hit. And they were crazy. And then I come to Dallas and find out what bad driving actually is.
It wasn't bad until you found Dallas.
Check out Fluffy's routine on driving in India.
Oh man,
Gabriel Iglesias. He's got an incredible routine on his visit to India.
I'll check it out. Anyway, well, that'll
Speaking of check it out.
Yeah, speaking of, let's head down to that. Let's do that. So I came across a couple of links. One of them has nothing to do with Linux and has everything to do with JavaScript, but I thought it was really interesting. And its tagline is, "Are you smarter, or can you beat 1 megabyte of code in chess?" Maybe, maybe not. So I think, I'm sorry, not 1 megabyte, 1 kilobyte. So the entire chess game is written in 1 kilobytes worth of JavaScript code. And so that makes the engine or the brain, if you will, not that great. So I've seen people liken it to an ELO. So this is the ranking system in I guess like chess in general. I mean, there's a lot of competition that uses ELO, but it was essentially novice. So like a 2000 ELO, 2000, 1800 ELO. So it's not good by any professional chess player standard, but I could only consistently beat it about 30% of the time. I do not consider myself a good chess player at all, so that gives you kind of a general idea, but I challenge anybody that's listening to this show, go try and beat Kilobyte's Gambit, and let me know how you fare. Do you win? Do you lose? Was it close? Was it just a full blowout?
I am so rusty. I remember the old DOS chess games, and I couldn't beat those. So
yeah. So
the monster chess ones.
I played Chess Master. I still have that music in my head, just as much as Tetris, and I could beat the easy mode. After that, nope. Just I would get destroyed. And so I guess I've gotten a little bit better. I can beat Kilobyte maybe about a third of the time, but man, still sometimes I just make these like boneheaded moves, and there's no undo button, so it's just you just stuck with that move, and you get to feel the weight of that dumb move for the rest of the game. The other thing I found was I don't know if it's Naughty or Nodi, but this is a really cool application that will monitor any kind of thing that you've got going on in the terminal, and then it will send a message to something like Slack or Telegram to let you know that it's done. So if you've got a command that you know is going to take like an hour, you can use Nodi to notify you when it's done after you've walked away from your computer. So I think that is fantastic. It's amazing. I want to start using this for myself, and we'll see how it goes. So Bo had something called Noise Torch that is a noise suppression application for your microphone in Linux. But we're going to take this into the next episode because I want to hear what he has to say about this one. So Moss, what do you got?
Okay, I found that Jing OS, a phone/tablet Linux OS which aims to replicate iOS, announced they will not release version 0.7 and will instead release version 0.8 on March 31st, claiming it will be a full-featured Linux and in the future will be releasing as OTA. It looks great, hope they can pull it off. For all you mandrakers out there, Rosa Fresh R11 is also out. This fork is by the Russians, who were co-developers of the last official version of Mandriva, and is the base for Open Mandriva LX. I do not myself recommend Rosa. If you're more of an enterprise user, Rosa Enterprise Server is a fork of RHEL. And listener Dylan Berger asked the Distro Hoppers team, what one feature would you ask to be added to your daily driver distro? We're saving that topic for a future show, but we did hear it.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to answer this one. So yeah, I think we'll make a whole show out of it. It's gonna be good. All right. Well, that'll do it for the show. Our next episode will be at 2 p.m. Central U.S. time on March 21st. 2021, and we've got a link for you and everybody else to get that converted to your own time zone, so you don't have to rack your brain with horrible time zone math. So Joe, where can we find more of you outside of the show?
Well, you can catch me on a couple other shows. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show. That's www.tllts.org. I'm on the Linux Lugcast. We just recorded this last Friday. www.linuxlugcast.com. You can find me on MeWe, or you can send me a message, jb@mintcast.org.
And Bo's not here, but you've got the Undercast Collective on YouTube. We got a link in the show notes. And also Crowbar Kernel Panic, which Josh will likely shout out too. So Moss, what about you?
Check your show notes. Everything is linked. We've got It's Moss. We've got MeWe, we've got several blogs, we've got music on Bandcamp and on various YouTube channels. I'm at Zyvala at hosttux.social on Mastodon, Zyvala at protonmail.ch, and sponsors. And I'm really grateful for my sponsors.
Yay! And Tony Hughes had to cut out, not feeling amazing today, but you can get him on HPR with host ID 338. He occasionally blogs at tony-hughes.blogspot.com. Get him on Twitter at TonyH1212 or th@mintcast.org or distrohoppersdigest at gmail.com. Tony Watts, tw@mintcast.org, or just search up Echoes of Savages. Josh, what about you?
You can email me at joshontech@mintcast.org, and you can find me on most social sites at joshontech. And now you can find Crowbar Kernel Panic on Spotify, at least, hopefully soon to be on every podcatcher. And at the website, Crowbar Kernel Panic at firesite.fm.
Nice. So I looked into it. You have to check the box. You have to go into Fireside and basically tell it, yeah, I want it to post to these particular services.
I'll have to mention that to Bo.
Cool. Mike, what about you?
You can email me at grouchym@pm.me or hit me up on Discord at grouchym. I'm always bored during work and looking to chat, so feel free.
Hey, and he's special and green now, so he gets all the cool stuff.
Yay!
As for me, leochavez.org and at leochavez on Twitter. Leo@mintcast.org if you need to email me. LinuxUserspace.show for my other show. Full Circle Weekly News for my other show. And if you want to support me, you can buy me a coffee. But before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Owen Peary for our audio editing. Josh Lowe for all his work on the website. Hobstar for our logo. And Londoner for our time sync and all of the links that we get most of the time. Bytemark Hosting for hosting mintcast.org in our Mumble server. Archive.org for hosting our audio files. HPR for our backup Mumble room. And of course, the Linux Mint development team for the fine distro we love talking about every fortnight. Thanks, Clem.
Thanks,
Thanks, Clem.
And Co.
Oh, I forgot to mention that I'm going to be converting all of my machines to ARM before next show.
You only have two of
not
them,
ARM.
though.
Arch.
Oh, Arch. Oh,
I'm going to
ew.
convert them
Really?
all to Arch for the next show.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck with
Oh.
that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I mean,
let us know when you're going to try LFS.
Oh, how many machines is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 machines to Arch before the next show. 8.
Okay. Call me a
machines.
skeptic, but good luck. That's going to be tough. You're just
Probably
yanking
won't
my
be
chain,
pure
right?
Arch. Probably won't be pure Arch.
Oh, what are you
No.
doing? Like Endeavor or something?
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to pick one.
Okay. Okay.
So I just stopped my Audacity, and it says
Yeah.
recorded audio was lost at the labeled locations.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I've never had this before.
Well,
Other applications. Yeah, I don't know.
There's still the Mumble, and if the Mumble doesn't work, then there's still the YouTube.
yeah. So, yeah, Moss, we're going to need you on this one.
Yep.
All right,
I
so
got
stop
it
that.
all. I did not lose my mumble.
Yay!
Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
what do you think's more likely to happen before the next show? That Joe gets Arch fully installed on 7 different machines, or I get a stable Wi-Fi connection for once?
I'm going to go with Wi-Fi on this one.
I'm really sorry about that today. That was
It
awful.
happened to me all over Distro Hoppers last episode.
Yeah, no worries. Well, how did Audacity fare? I mean, it didn't do anything, right? It was fine.
Yeah, I still have it running. It's picking up my audio just fine. Should I stop now?
Yeah,
you
can
should
stop
stop now.
Yeah, I'm
Export
exporting
that
mine
puppy.
right now.
All right, let me go turn off the mumble.
Mine's exporting fine. I don't know. It's weird. Holy crap! 20 seconds to export it.
Huh.
This new
That's all?
processor is awesome.
Maybe. Oh wow. Maybe nothing happened to it. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, nothing
but-
must have happened. It's fine.
Yeah. Moss, at least throw in Josh's to the to drive just in case.
I'm going to throw everything. Y'all can sort it. It's Owen's job.
True. True.
That sounds like a problem. Somebody else's problem.
Can somebody post the drive link in the...
Ooh, yeah.
Does he have a direct link yet?
No, I need to just share him the whole folder. And
Yeah.
Josh, have I shared you the whole folder? I think I need to do you too.
What do you mean? The for
Audio.
drive?
Yeah, you got everything, right?
Yeah, I can upload it. Yeah.
No, I mean like
Yeah.
everything. You can see all the
Oh yeah, I can see all the folders and everything for
cool.
mintcast
Okay, all right.
and whatnot.
And I
yeah.
need to do Mike that way. Let me do that real
This
quick.
is going to kill my
Documents.
limits on my Google Drive.
So when we export to FLAC and then we set the level to 0 or 8.
8 is fine. I just leave it at default now. I mean, the quality is not that much different. What is it, 5 and 16?
So the level goes all the way from 0 to 8, and then there's bit depth of either 16-bit or 24-bit.
Yeah, I've been exporting lately at 5 and 16. So level 5, bit depth 16. I don't think anybody notices. So long story short, you can do what you want.
Just so long as it's a FLAC file, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. No.
Yeah, I just want to be able to spend all next show talking about Arch.
That's cool, man. I mean, It's good stuff if you like it to be on the newest of the new. Nothing wrong with that.
Boy, this is going to take me forever and use up all my storage.
Tried to tell you, just do Josh's.
Just do Josh's? How
I mean,
do I
you
identify
can.
which one's Josh's?
I think that's the only one that we need. It should have usernames in the
it
file
does say
name.
Josh.
Mhm.
There is Josh.
And like
no,
12
it's
mics.
Mike's you want. Mike.
Just
No,
exporting now. It'll be there. in a
No,
sec.
we don't need Mike's. Mike's Audacity is fine. It's Josh's Audacity that may be wrong. So as a backup,
Okay.
throw Josh's in there.
I'm throwing that in. I don't have to throw any of the others in?
Not to my knowledge. So what I will say is, don't delete them just yet.
Don't delete them just yet.
Yeah, but I don't think we need any of them right now.
Okay, see, now I did not understand that. Last time I had to upload every bloody one of them.
Yeah, we're okay.
Oh, Leo, can I grab that drive link from you, please?
My God, yeah. I knew I was doing something, and then I just kind of faded away. All right, show audio. Let me at least, yeah, I'll definitely give you this folder for sure, and then I'll try and share everything else with you too. Give me 1 sec.
Sure. Hope Tony's okay.
I do too. Yeah, he's been in pain here lately.
Did I hear him right? He said he had a stroke?
No, not a stroke. He's got a lot of serious back pain.
Yeah.
He said something about a stroke.
I thought he did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh.
And then he had really bad
that.
arthritis. Yeah, he said something about a stroke and then really bad arthritis right after that.
Okay, well, I should be listening.
Yeah. There you go, Mike. Man, that's worse than I thought.
Yeah, I didn't realize that he's pretty good for having a stroke. I mean, that's sometimes that's totally disabilitating or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Debilitating.
That's what I was trying to go for.
The Human Dictionary strikes again.
I've always been called the Coven spell checker.
Hey, you check our spells. It's good. And that worked, right, Mac?
Yeah, yep. Thank
Sweet.
you.
All right. I wanted to make sure I was pretty sure that was the right email. All right, so now I'm gonna give you cool access to everything.
Oh man, it's really slow uploading today.
I think mine's done. Yeah, mine's done.
I only see Joe's and Tony's.
So Mike, go to that link. So while you're downloading or whatever, go to that link and star that directory. That's all the mintCast stuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
Boy, mine's really moving.
You have been christened.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you guys, how do I access the email for mintCast? Because I don't know yet.
What is your email?
We have to add you to.
I don't think you have it yet.
email.
I thought Bo said he did.
I thought Bo did.
But the
I thought he
password,
told
yeah,
me.
the passwords are there for mintcast at Gmail or and you can add yourself.
So, but how do I go about doing
but-
that? I'm confused.
Let me see if I can look into it because we got to get Mike one too.
You gotta find the.
No. Shh.
Yeah, I'm trying
no one
to think of
needs
the
to
way
know.
to say it. Yeah,
We're still live.
yeah, but we're still
live. No, we're still
yeah.
live. We're still
Oh,
live.
I got
So
you.
I'm
I
not
didn't realize
saying-
you were still live.
I'll go kill that here in just a sec, and then we can divulge all of our secrets. But yeah, I remember creating a couple. I think I created Josh's. Somebody created Josh's. I remember creating one.
I think Bo
but
created mine.
all the other ones
Yeah.
before Josh's were created by Rob.
Yeah, I know Rob created mine for sure. All right. Well, speaking of, thank you everybody for coming and checking out the live show. It was a good one. I appreciate y'all being in here and listening to us ramble on about random Linux stuff all day long. So yeah, have a good fortnight, and we'll see you again in a couple Sundays.
Are we off now?
No.
Not
Yeah.
yet. Hold your horses.
I don't have any horses.
Come on,
Hold your
Moss. You
ghost.
can unleash your curse words in just another minute.
I'm swearing at Google. My upload